Hey, hobo. Hey, scapegoat. Who here has had birthday cake Oreos? I have not. Hey, Comic Brook. Rapidly refreshing the second the clock struck 9. Yeah, I slept in late today. Hey, Nova Dasher. Right, so may as well briefly. How many hours do you sleep a day? Too many. Depends what time I go to bed and everything, but 9 or 10 hours. Right, so Hobo, since I don't think you've seen any previous episodes. Uh, we play. So it's a fantasy world. It is a. Hey, Killface. Your Kroger's parking lot. So yeah, it's a fantasy world. There are two groups of people: normals and abnormals. Abnormals have special powers, and as a result, they are forced to isolate themselves from normal society. We play an abnormal, Buffalo Seer. So Kroger's in Canada? Probably? I'm honestly not sure. Hey, Joanna. Snowstorm 25 shopping. Yep. Shitty weather. So yeah, we have the ability to let people see their futures. We use it on ourselves. And saw that we were going to marry this lovely lady here. Play Second Life. Pass. So yeah, this lovely lady, Piper, is going to be a wife? And this is us. Piper and us. We wear a robe and mask because we're not normal. So yeah, we had a vision that we were going to marry her. So we left our sanctuary to go looking for her. In the process, we met this dude, Duke January. Who is, it must be said, a tall drink of water. You enjoy black women? Sure. Yeah, she is black. Should I have something against black women? So yeah, we found Duke January, a tall drink of water who is being hunted by bounty hunters. Who is also secretly abnormal. He has telekinetic abilities. Nobody knows that. Police didn't know that. They wanted to protect him from the bounty hunters. He wanted to. He didn't want to stay in the police station. Tall drink of vodka. He didn't want to stay in the police station. He wanted to go to one of his. He's rich, so he wanted to go to one of his family's homes. So, police sent an escort with him. Key. A non-binary undercover officer. So, January, Piper, Key, and us. Hey, Jordan. So Piper, Key, and us all accompany January on in order to try to find the in order to get him to his home, his family's home, and we were chased by a vicious but quite pleasant bounty hunter by the name of Trinette. A vile, horrible woman, but very nice to speak with. Okay. I'm not non-binary now. I mean, I still identify as a man, but the character we're playing in the game is a woman. You can choose your pronouns. The character we're playing, you do get to choose your own pronouns. I chose female pronouns. She, her. Because why not? Trebek is Shrek. So, January got captured by Trinette. We rescued him. He got captured again. We rescued him again. Hey, honey bunny. I never mentioned anything about a dinner date. Hey, Nancy. And I'm pretty sure we're basically at the end of the game. Or near the... I'm pretty sure we're close to the end of the game. Pretty sure. It's your Friday? Yay! Hi, JJ. How's the library job hunting going? I haven't looked for anything. Haven't looked for anything else that since Monday. Hey, Beetlejuice. God, I know, Jordan. Be nice to have this game done. Once we finish, we can. Wish you played horror. Yeah, but I'm just not into horror. Once we finish this, we can debate the next game I play. But at this point, like any game we play, we're just gonna we're really just killing time until Date Everything releases on Valentine's Day. Which will be a Friday. Had a ladybug come in her face in life? Ooh, nice. If Viking comes in here, don't believe anything she says about me. First-person shooters such a good... I don't enjoy first-person shooters. Valentine's Day is until next one. Right, but I mean, that's what I'm saying. Whatever game we decide that I'll play next, it's just going to be until Date Everything comes out on Valentine's Day. Because I'll definitely be playing that one. She is stalking me too much. V-Day is for losers. Sure. Losers in relationships, but play Sally Face. Valentine's Day is capitalism anyway. Right, but the point is that Date Everything comes out on Valentine's Day. That's the day that Date Everything comes out. And that game looks really weird and goofy and fun. It's not about Valentine's Day itself. It's that that's when the game gets released. We need weird. Yeah, and Date Everything looks super fucking weird. You can date your vacuum. You can date your sense of existential despair. You expect a good time with me? Probably not. You'll have a time with me. I don't know if it'll be a good time. You're it. Right? That's what I'm saying, Jordan. It looks ridiculous. You would date your vacuum for real? Sure can suck. Why would a guy want to hurt a girl he likes even if she's not ugly? She's into it. Maybe she's into it. Can we play that? Yes, Jordan! That's what I'm saying! The game releases on Valentine's Day. It's not out yet! It released on Valentine's Day! Girl is very nice and very wet, too. Is she wet because she's into... because she's masochistic? Hey, Big Dick Daddy. Target and Walmart are already selling Valentine's gifts half off. She doesn't like it? How do you know she doesn't like it? Did you ask? What I'm saying is that I wasn't listening. And I meant for the next game. Like I said, so, like, we've got, like, a month. We've got a month to get through first. You pay rent here? So we've got to get through, like, 4 more weeks before Date Everything comes out, so... How much does Ring pay? $1.99. Hey, Color Purple. You playing this game? Yes. She pays a full $1.99. But yeah. Alright, let's get back into it. So we, hey Viking. For 25 months, that's like a bag of rice. With the ASMR music in the background. Turn down the music. That a bit better, Purple? That didn't do anything, did it? So yeah, we last time we managed to escape from Trinette and her bandits again. After we drink and fill the few water containers we have, I just quietly wait for a little while, thinking. I'm not alone for long, however, as January comes over. Are you well? Yes, everything is fine.
Splendid.
Wonderful. I believe I'm ready to leave. As am I. Hey, Buttercup. Perfect. I give him a critical look. Are you really all right? Certainly. That is good. I'm sorry you were kidnapped twice. For a moment, January looks stunned. Then he regains a happy smile. You want to play a different game? I'm pretty sure we'll be finishing this one up tonight, Buttercup, so... We'll be able to move on to another game tomorrow, next week. We'll be able to move on to another game next week. No apologies necessary. I suspect you all have had a worse time of it than I. Yes, there were hard times for us as well. But we've always had two others around. You were alone. Who here feels sorry for Scapegoat? Who feels sorry for Scapegoat? Hands in the air. Hands up if you feel sorry for Scapegoat. Yeah, I guess. Scapegoat sprayer? Don't spray, Scapegoat. That's very rude, Jordan. Trying to spray her? Trying to spray her? This guy here, I don't know what is wrong. I wasn't expecting this, and I'm so surprised and delighted. Like a painter's radio. I just think painters should put their radio somewhere where it won't get splattered with paint. Put the radio off to the side where it'll be safe. Kind of upset with Scapegoat because she doesn't like soup. I also don't like soup. Not trying to be center of attention, but I do have a deep psychological need for it. True that, true that. Scapegoat poop to their bed. I see. Do you know, Jamie, that I was trained for that type of situation? You were?
Indeed.
For years, I was taught how to maintain my composure among hostile individuals. It is also no coincidence that I am so adept in undoing ropes with my power. Disabling a gun, likewise, was not accomplished by luck. I confess, staying calm when I was being watched proved more difficult than using my power. Reading about Trump? Why? Comic swole. I just got here from the gym. Yeah, comic swole. Why? Oh, I suppose my nerves had been rattled from all that had happened. I can imagine. I need to ask why so many people want to kidnap you, to the point where you've gotten training for it. Well, besides the obvious pecuniary incentives, I am the only duke in the region. This makes me a priority target. I tilt my head, still not getting it, and gratefully January keeps explaining. Being duke entails many privileges, social clout, and a title that can only be passed hereditarily. Such titles have not been bestowed for many generations, and all but my family line have since disappeared. I have no siblings, and if I fail to sire an offspring, the title will be lost forever, at least in this region. Oh, that is unfortunate. Is dying the only way to lose the title? No, I could renounce it, and of course, I would lose all normal rights and titles if my true nature became public knowledge. I am sorry. Don't be. I think I'm happy with to be who I am. I agree. I am happy for you, and I am happy for myself. We smile amongst each other, taking a moment to enjoy our mutual conclusion. What accent is this? Supposed to be, like, a British accent. Piper saunters over and claps a hand over each of our shoulders. Sorry for interrupting, but Key's coming back. We better start piling on Lewis. January and I nod. As we start to walk, January chuckles. Onward to my house once more. No girl who runs marathons and still gets winded going up one flight of stairs. That makes me feel better about my fitness or lack thereof. That's funny. That's funny, Comic Book. I mean, stairs are different than, like, straight running. British? I'm not good at accents! What do you want from me? I'm not an actor. I'm some jackass on the internet. Stair climber is the hardest machine in the gym. Piper laughs too. I told you that was the best option. Before long, we have made our way back to the rocky shortcut. The going is touchy at best along the uneven terrain, and we're all nervous. Despite the enthusiastic certainty from earlier, nothing seems truly sure anymore. I mean, I'm Scottish heritage. My mom came over from Scotland, so I'm like Scottish descent. You really love me, but you hate this game. Sorry, Buttercup. No one speaks as we continue. Even if we weren't trying to avoid being overheard, I doubt anyone would talk right now. The silence proves useful, as we end up waltzing back into trouble. Up ahead, one of Tranat's goons steps out from behind a large rock a ways down the trail. Lewis is pulled to a stop and, luckily, the one who seems caught off guard is them. They are not looking our way, and there is no one else in sight. Speaking good. But the character has a British accent. Piper clicks her tongue as she does what she can to keep our horse still and soundless. It's the goon that ran Lewis off. I look back and forth between the others unsurely. Should we simply try running past them? Could it be a trap? Hold on, we're going to take care of this. Before the rest of us really register it, she has Lewis running towards the goon. The heavy pounding of his hooves catches their attention and they turn our way. The sight of us startles them. They take a few steps back as they contemplate what to do now. They ultimately decide to turn around and run, but by then it's too late. Lewis easily overtakes the goon, and they fall backwards in an attempt to stop themselves from running into him. The character is African? No, he's got a British accent. The character is fictional. The character is from a fictional world. Piper doesn't give them even a second to recover as she jumps off of Lewis directly onto the goon. A brief struggle erupts between the two as Key, January, and I dismount as well. After that, we get the goon fully pinned. Key and I each take one of their arms, while January wraps his arms around their head and mouth. I look up at Piper as she scoots from the goon's chest to sitting on their legs. I thought you disagreed with rushing into things. Piper laughs a little breathlessly. Hey, Uncle Buck. Well, in general. This time around, though, I think that was our best bet. They were going to see us sooner or later, and, at most, this goon would have had that bandit around his backup. The 5 of us could handle that rather easily, don't you think? The goon harshly jerks the arm I'm holding, likely to be displeased at being treated as a non-threat. It is a hassle, but overall not too taxing to keep under control. Ha ha, yes, I suppose. I smile a bit, and Piper does in kind. Key chuckles.
Come on.
Still, a better warning would have helped.
Clearly.
Sorry about that. Next time I'll remember. We're supposed to raise our hand, right?
Pardon me?
Piper asked us to give a sign before doing something reckless, and she didn't even do it herself. Key jokingly said the sign could be raising a hand. I said I was sorry, and it wasn't that reckless. Yeah, it was. You know who was a threat? Donald Trump, yep. January looks dumbfounded for a moment, then laughs. Of course. Thank you for explaining it.
I'm sorry.
Sorry you didn't get to be there when it happened. Thank you. And there's always next time. Exactly. So now, what shall we do with our new guest? First things first. With great difficulty, I reach around into my coat and pull out the ropes. I pull the ropes I'd picked up earlier out of my pocket. Let's tie them up. Everyone nods in unison. While still using her body to pin down their legs, Piper begins wrapping them up. Shortly, the goon is properly restrained. Belmar too. Yep, he's an asshole. Finally, free to let go, Key pulls out their knife and uses it to cut away part of the goon's pant leg, making it into a makeshift cover for their mouth. Hope that'll be good enough. It is plenty good, in my opinion. However, with that having been attended to, you remain with the dilemma of what to do with them. Key looks thoughtful, tilting the head back and forth before leaving it tilted in the direction of Piper.
I'm not sure.
Would Trinette leave us alone if we had one of her goons as a hostage? She would want to get her goon back in one piece, certainly, if only for the sake of maintaining a business people want to be a part of. But that is not really the main issue as I see it. That group of bandits is much larger, and the goon means nothing to them. Able to track down Life by Jen. Hi, Breaker. We could try making that lack of concern an issue to break the cooperation between Trinette and Felicity. I don't have high hopes that it would work, though. If that is the case, I would rather not bring them. There's not much benefit for it, and if the goon is found, all they will be able to say is that we went this way, which Trinette must already be assuming to have discovered them in the first place.
Are we agreed?
Guess that means we tie them to a rock here. Once we're all safe, I'll call for someone to come get them.
Exactly.
Right. Understood. We all agree with the plan, though no one looks especially pleased with it. The fact that we were placed in the same sort of predicament makes using this method somewhat uncomfortable. I'd rather not have to mimic their tactics. I also can't help but wonder what was going through their heads when they were doing it to us. Not much, they probably didn't care. They're criminals, they're like, probably would have been quicker and easier to just kill them, but... I still think that was mob hit. Without wasting any more time, Key guides the goon over to a large rock and uses the rest of my rope to secure them. Sorry, pal, but you're gonna have to wait here for a while. The goon mumbles something unintelligible, but doesn't resist. Okay, let's run. Piper grabs a hold of Lewis and we all remount. Then in a flash, we're moving ahead once more. We do not have to stop again until we arrive at the old path. I am helped off of Lewis and take a few steps forward. Being here is eerie. I instinctively wrap my hand around my right wrist. A distinct feeling of sadness resurfaces, and I suddenly feel very alone. The somber atmosphere does not seem to be in my head, as the others look pensive as well. There is a moment of silence. January speaks first.
Well,
I trust we won't have to stay here long. Yes, the sooner we leave the better, but we've got to search thoroughly first. If you find anything that can be used as a bag, bring that too. We can fill it and strap it to Lewis. Everyone nods, and we silently spread out to each search a different part of the wreckage and surrounding ground. I start by looking at a box in my search area that is not too heavily covered by debris. To my surprise, inside are food packages. But as I look closer, I see that most have already been ripped open, the contents spilled, covered with splinters, or picked at by animals. I stand there staring for far longer than necessary as I try to avoid an especially morbid thought from entering my mind. It does regardless. I imagine if my hand has suffered a similar fate after being left out here. Probably. Yeah, it would have been picked apart by animals. The sounds of the others working is able to pull me out of my own head. They're still here, and we still have things that need to be done. I close the box and decide that I'll tell Key about the situation before searching more. Partly because I think it is important for them to know, and partly because I would like to speak with someone right now. I see them not far off, and somewhat hesitantly walk over. Hey, good timing, Jamie. I was just going to go over there. You were? Yeah, I found some bandages we can use to redo the dressings on your wrist. What did he say? Key looks almost apologetic about offering to do me a favor. Even though I wanted to get my mind off of that, their concern does still help. That is fine, but first I have to show you something. I found a box full of food, but I'm not sure much of it is good. Alright, I'll check it out. Key follows me back to the box, looks through it briefly, and shakes her head. This isn't good. If we really look through it, we might find something usable, but let's tend to your wrist first. Sure, thanks. No problem. Key motions for me to sit. We both sit on the ground, and Key carefully undoes the knot on my sleeve. I choose to look away after that. Let me know if you're in any pain. The wound sealer's numbing effect could be wearing off, and that would be bad. Fine, I will. Tell me if anything hurts. This is the first time I've had to bandage something worse than a scrape. I've been trained to do this kind of stuff, though. It's just, I've never had the chance to use it. Not that I wanted to. I see. Good luck. Key laughs lightly. Thanks, I guess. That was for me. They laugh slightly again. As Key gets to work redoing my bandages, I keep my focus squarely on their face. I watch as their eyes shift ever so slightly up and down, and I actually find myself chuckling.
What?
The way you're looking at me makes me feel as though I'm the gadabout. What does that mean? You have a certain look when you're working on something, and you're giving it to me. Or my arm, at least. Oh, sorry? It's fine. I do not think it is a bad thing. I'm not so sure about that. Goodness, Key, do not be so self-conscious. Wow, I'm kind of surprised you've ever heard of being self-conscious. I learned it from watching you. No, you didn't. I chuckle again. That is correct. At that moment, January walks over.
hello.
Please, forgive my interruption. I wanted to tell you that I finished searching my area. What would you like me to do now? I know exactly what. Go search for that box Jamie found right over there for any food packages that are still good. I'll be happy to. He steps closer and then bends down to start rifling through the packages. He pauses mid-search to look back at us, specifically at my wrist. Is everything all right? I have no idea. Key looks at me as if asking for permission. I shrug the shoulder of my good arm.
Okay.
The wound sealer is still intact, so you could say it's as great as it can be. Ah, I'm glad. Reassured, he goes back to looking through the box. Key, how many boxes of food did we have originally? Was this the only one? There's one more. That's encouraging. This box appears to contain only a few that are intact. Key sighs, but doesn't lose focus for even a moment. I can't believe we might actually have to look for edible plants out here.
How dreadful.
Agreed. That is rather unfortunate. I'm afraid I'll be of no use to you in that way. My knowledge of edible plants is entirely restricted to what grows specifically on the surface. Oh? What types of plants are edible down there? None. Well, a very thorough knowledge, then. He delivers this answer so smoothly, it completely catches me off guard. I'm so surprised I don't immediately realize I'm laughing. Key laughs along too, though more reservedly. A chaffle tree? January's eyes slide over to our side, looking childishly hopeful. Was that an acceptable joke? Key and I look at each other in a knowing way, and I shrug. It was all right. January's smile widens, and it's clear he picked up on the humor in my tone. That is enough of a success for me. All done. I finally look at my wrist again. At this point, the sleeve is pulled back over it and tied into a knot, so I cannot see any actual difference. But I know just from the way they were focusing that they put a great deal of care into it. Thank you, Key. Key shyly brings their hand to their forehead with the intention of pulling their hat down. Unfortunately, it is no longer there, causing them to look even more sheepish. They scratch the side of their head as Plan B.
It's fine.
It's nothing. After that comically awkward exchange, we turn to January to see how his work went. He looks defeated. It seems only 3 of the packages remain usable, I'm afraid. Damn, that's not ideal. Well, we had another box of food. We should try to find that before moving on. You guys okay with that? January and I nod and split off to continue the search. Before I can do much of anything, I see Piper trying to lift up a piece of the carriage. Being alone with her is still difficult for me. However, we don't have time for that kind of hesitation right now. I take a breath and briskly walk over. Do you want any assistance? She looks over at me without dropping the piece. Yeah, that'd be great. There's a box of supplies under here. Could you reach in and get it? Yes, I can do that.
That's good.
Wonderful. And don't worry, I promise I won't drop this on you. I wasn't worried about it before. If you felt the need to bring it up, maybe I should be. Piper smirks wryly. You got me. Her look gets me to chuckle a little. Reaching down, I grab hold of the box and yank it out. I am grateful the box is not terribly weighty. I'm able to move it without much difficulty. Once the box and I are a safe distance away, Piper lets her load drop with a sigh of relief. Thanks very much. I hope the effort wasn't in vain. Piper looks down with me into the box, which has been smashed open. All the food packages I can see are thoroughly ruined. Maybe not all of them are bad. Yes, let's check. Crouching to the ground, we both dig in and start searching, eventually finding one that's still usable. Oh, that's not good.
Then again, it could be worse.
If it comes to it, we could always eat that goon we've got tied up. I snickered darkly at her suggestion. That is true. Huh. Nice to know you can appreciate some morbid humor. Of course. She gives me another somewhat crooked smile. Well, we better tell January and Key. With this box found, we'll have to decide what to do next. Right. Soon we're all gathered together again. We found the other box, but only one package was intact.
I see.
Which makes 4. Got it. Even with Lewis, we can't hope to reach the house until late afternoon tomorrow. We've got to move carefully to not be spotted, and give Lewis chances to rest. So we've got two options. We can leave now and tough it out, or we can stay a little longer to search for loose bags. It's not hard to imagine that some fell out of the boxes during all the commotion. January looks crestfallen and mutters something seemingly to himself. Piper looks a touch deflated as well. We take a little time to silently weigh our options when we hear noises coming from the brush nearby. Each of us turns in the direction of the noise. It doesn't stop after a few moments, and no one needs to say anything. As one, we rush into cover away from the direction of the sounds to hide. I peek out as best I can and see Felicity and several of her bandit friends emerging from the woods. She's swiveling her head around, obviously looking for us. Looks like the team split up. I don't know anything about Felicity, so I have no clue if not having Trinette around is a good thing or a bad thing. Felicity continues to walk further into the camp and closer to our location. Even more worrying is that the bandits are beginning to fan out. We can't let ourselves be surrounded again. Piper turns to us, looking determined. I'm going to talk to her. If I get attacked, or if the bandits don't clear off, do what you can to get away. A solemn mood falls over us, but we wordlessly agree. She gives a small wave, then creeps off. Containing the urge to call her back is painful. Piper takes a roundabout way, coming out on another side so as not to give away our hiding place. She feigns consternation when Felicity and the other bandits spot her. My fingers dip into the tip of my knee as all I can do is wait to see what they do next. Felicity strolls over with a happy smile. Piper remains looking wary, most likely not acting anymore.
Nice to see you again.
Hello! Nice to see you again. Where's January? I'm afraid you're out of luck. We decided to have only one person go for supplies. Then why is the horse you all rode around on right here? How else was I supposed to carry the stuff back? We were hoping to pick up more than just a handful of things here. Okay, then where are the others? Hi, Buttercup. Hi, Vanna. I don't even know. There's a general meeting place we have in mind, but it was decided that they'd hide and come to me if it seems safe. Just in case something like this happened. Felicity seems to want to frown, but keeps on smiling regardless. Pretty clever idea. But are you really positive they aren't around here? I'm not sure you have enough time to be splitting up and regrouping like that. The other bandits begin to move in closer, trying to intimidate Piper. She shrugs as nonchalantly as ever. Like I said, whether they're here or not is something neither of us knows. Felicity puts her hands on her hips and sighs exaggeratedly. Oh boy, I don't know why you're making such a big deal out of this. You're outnumbered, gotta be a while away from wherever you're going, and have no supplies. Sounds like a good time to call it a day to me. Besides, if January is taken, the worst that could happen is his family would have to use a small chunk of their fortune to get him back. Really now, who even cares? Piper's face scrunches up, clearly uncomfortable. Is there some kind of point to this? I can't help you with anything. Someone had to say it. And I heard you were supposed to be like Trinette, you know? Smart and not mindlessly bound by laws that do no good. I know it's a little harsh to just give him up, but hasn't this trip cost you all enough already? I haven't been around the whole time, but I've got a pretty good idea of how it went. She gestures towards the ruined carriage as an example, and puts on a dreadful smile.
So tragic.
I even heard your friend with the cloak had 2 hands until just a couple days ago. Involuntarily, I flinch at the mention of my injury. What kind of person thinks some gold they got just by being born is worth putting people through all this tragedy? It is obvious now that this speech is not simply for Piper's sake. She's hoping the rest of us can hear. I look over at January, and his face is grim. Key places a hand on his shoulder. January's only response is a miserable sigh while continuing to stare forward with furrowed brows. While still comforting January, Key turns to me with apologetic eyes. I give a meager nod and slowly move my head in the direction of Piper. She's got her arms folded and seems thoroughly unimpressed by Felicity's goading. When Piper is sure Felicity is done, she smiles and raises an eyebrow.
Trust me.
I think we still have a chance, personally. Either way, it isn't really up to me to call off the mission, and I've been with them long enough to know they're not interested in giving up before the finish line. So, I'm afraid I can't aim for anything else. Aw, sorry, Vanna. You didn't really miss much. And if I'm being extra honest, making it to the end is what I want, too.
Fine.
Fine, I get it. Let's all give you guys a round of applause. While Felicity is still making sarcastic comments, I feel a nudge against the back of my head. Key is trying to get January and my attention. You two should go. It looks like they aren't going to leave. If you don't do this now, you may not get a chance to do it later. I'll stay to make sure Piper is alright. I tug the top of my cloak down sullenly. I don't want to split up again. January speaks bitterly.
That is awful.
How can we leave someone behind? No choice, really. With any luck, we'll catch up with you two later. They're blocking the way forward, so you'll have to go back for now. Key pulls up some of the supplies out of their jacket and hands them to me. I put them in my cloak with great care. If you don't see us by the time the sun is fully set, go on ahead. Hopefully the bandits will have cleared up by then. Oh, and don't worry about us. I remember what direction we gotta go to get there. If we have to, we can meet again at your place. All these ads. You're making a lot of money? Not really. I've been asleep a whole bunch of times. Thank you for being awake a lot. No offense to anyone who sleeps. I'm someone who sleeps. Love your blonde Aryan chicks. Orion chick. No, actually. Looks like I might be making like 250 this month. Do you even like this game? I like it. I like this game. That's why I wanted to play it. I've played it before, and I enjoy it. I sink deeper into my cloak in deep sorrow. None of us believe that is a realistic possibility. Farewell, Key. Please be safe. Blonde hair and blue eyes. Goodbye, but only for now. I will see you again, and Piper as well. The three of us share a cautious smile.
Stay safe.
Definitely. Yeah, back when it first came out. Back when it was first released, way back in 2017. Came out almost 8 years ago, and I played it back then. Then, January and I sneak back through the bushes, moving carefully until we're at a safe distance. Once we've gone far enough, we start running. No, I always yawn. I'm a yawny person. We rush down the rocky path we came up before and find a good place to hide inside an unobtrusive crack in the side of the wall. The two of us agree that this is an ideal spot. Staying on this known trail is a risk, but we don't want to go too far in case Piper and Key come looking, and we also don't want to get lost out here. DoorDash? Nah, I'll be making myself rice later. The two of us sit back to back in the confined space. I'm preparing myself for a tense and silent wait when January sighs morosely. Isn't it crazy how you can just tell Ann Coulter doesn't care about food? Ann Coulter doesn't care about anything. She cares about herself and about being racist. It would be better for everyone if this was simply over, but I cannot turn myself in. Even if I did, there's no guarantee the bandits will let the rest of you go. especially considering you can give information on who they are. And it isn't as though the police will look the other way if I am taken. They'll have to continue to put resources into getting me back for an untold amount of time. One more DoorDash delivery won't hurt. I mean, I'm sure I'll get plenty more DoorDash deliveries. Just not tonight. Most worryingly is that my family is capable of providing more than merely a payment for my return. I wouldn't be here at all if they weren't willing and able to break major laws. I fear the ones setting this up are aware of that, at least to some degree. There are far better targets if gold is all you're aiming for. I do not wish to make excuses and truly want all of this to end, but that is my thinking on this matter. I understand if you are displeased with me. Do you think I want you to surrender yourself? Came out with another bestseller. So here's the thing. Bestseller. What that means is that some conservative organization bought a bunch of copies of her book from specific locations. Because that's the way the bestseller list works. Like the bestseller list is not looking at like all sales across all stores. It's looking at specific locations. You know, it's looking at a small number of stores, and then using that to extrapolate. So, quite often, what you will see, conservative books especially, like books by conservatives especially, really most political books, but especially the ones by conservatives. And it's not just nonfiction, it happens with fiction books as well. But you will see, like, because publishers know which stores are having their data tracked, that's what I'm talking about, Ugly Hobo. The New York Times, the bestseller list, they're looking at a small number of stores. And publishers know which stores they're looking at. So what'll happen is some third-party group will buy a bunch of copies of a book from those specific locations that are being tracked. It's not regular people going in to buy the books. It's, you know, it's some conservative group just buying all the copies themselves. And hey, now you've got a bestseller. Now you've got a New York Times bestseller. You'll often see, like, a dagger symbol next to the books that are sold that way. But it's a scam. All of Ann Coulter's New York Times bestseller books, it's a scam. Nobody's reading her books. They're not meant to be read. Like, she's not even putting them out to be read. She's putting them out to get attention. It's to give the illusion that she's more popular than she actually is. Like I said, it has happened with fiction books as well from time to time. It's more common with nonfiction, especially political nonfiction. But it has happened with fiction books as well. And like when an author is caught doing that, oh, the book community lambasts them. The book community just tears into them whenever an author is caught doing that. Anyway, do you think I want you to surrender yourself? January speaks slowly, distantly. Perhaps slightly. Our odds out in these ruins are low. Why wouldn't the rest of you want to save yourselves? There is no shame in that. I can tell that he is curling himself up further. I don't want you to do that, January. Giving up won't make anything better. I'm glad you were able to see that. I was worried you might come out after what Felicity had said. Or a new Stephen King book, which wasn't political. It said New York Times bestseller. Stephen King! Like, his bestsellers are authentic. He doesn't need to cheat. He doesn't need to cheat the system to sell books. He's Stephen fucking King. You know? Like... Of course he's got a best-selling book. Everyone loves Stephen King. Hardback book? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, people love him. People love his books. So, yeah, of course, his books are legitimate bestsellers. He has no actual need to scam the system. Fun fact, I have never read a Stephen King novel.
I won't.
I'm not going to listen to her. It only matters if you all felt that way too. Well, now you know. Piper said it earlier. I've said it. And Key doesn't even need to say it to know how they feel. We understand you can't let yourself be taken. And we are going to make sure they don't get away with it. January sniffles slightly. Thank you, Jamie. Kidding? Nope, never read Stephen King. Because I'm not into horror. I mean, most of his books are horror, and I'm just not interested in horror. And then, like, The Dark Tower, I've just never bothered. Silence finally overtakes, however momentarily. From outside our hiding place, we hear a sound, and January and I both tense. We peer around the edge. In the distance, the goon is still tied to the rock, and in front of them is Trinette. Her arms are folded, and she stares at the goon momentarily. She's essentially alone for now, but it doesn't matter. What we need to do is stay hidden. I don't care if she gets away. All I want is for no one else to be hurt. I trust that January feels the same, as he gives no indication that he intends to confront her. Without a word, she reaches into the goon's pocket with her empty left hand. When her hand comes out, it is firmly wrapped around the handle of a knife. She deftly cuts the goon free, and they rip off the makeshift gag. Hey, Viking. Eyes of the Dragon is his best book. I mean, there's just a lot of books I want to read. It is unsettling that we're so close to her and that I cannot hear what she says. That uncomfortable feeling is almost immediately taken over by a new one due to what she says. Hey, Life with Ron. Come along, we're going back to headquarters. Bewilderment. She's leaving? Trinette shifts on her heels slightly, and her glowing eyes turn towards me.
Excuse me.
And that's not a ploy, darlings. I really must be going, and I'd rather not get involved in another altercation. Let's part ways amicably, okay? Vicious bounty hunter, but she is very pleasant. I want to believe it is all a coincidence. However, when I look into those unearthly eyes, I can't help feeling she sees right through us. Regardless, January and I refuse to come out of our hiding place. I'll respond to her. Bill Maher has a book coming out. I wouldn't be surprised if reads more like a fantasy novel. I mean, I know Stephen King does fantasy as well. I would not be surprised if Bill Maher's book has that little dagger symbol to indicate, you know, that it's a bestseller through shady means. I haven't looked up if like that's the case with his previous books, but honestly, I can't imagine there's actually that many people who want to read Bill Maher's books. Trinette is not deterred. She turns all the way around and walks directly to the opening of the crevice we've concealed ourselves in, leaving no doubt we've been spotted. I am sorry I can't stay. It is such a waste after all. But do you know what one of the most important skills of a bounty hunter can have is? Restraint. The target may be right in front of me. However, this isn't the first time that has occurred. Am I supposed to count on the third time being the charm? No. It is time to leave.
Maybe someday we'll meet again. I'd like that.
Under more pleasant circumstances, because she genuinely seems really pleasant to talk to. Like, legit, like, she seems really nice to talk to. I agree, so you can make it up to me. What? You said yourself that simply pointing a gun at me was worth a dinner. I want to know what actually being shot is worth. I mean, fair. Like, that's a fair point. She makes a noise too breathy to really be called a laugh.
Oh?
I admit, hon, I hadn't really thought of it. Usually the people I shoot are a touch less alive than you are, so it's never come up. You'll have to think of something then.
I'll give it some thought. I really will.
I suppose you're right. I'll give it some thought. I really will. I do like Trinette. Good. And she smiles at me. Not afraid. Achievement. You didn't let her get to you, in the end at least. I just got an achievement for backtalking her. I got the not afraid achievement for kind of teasing her. Saying that was certainly strange, and I imagine January must be giving me quite a look. But somehow it made me feel better. I don't intend to spend quality time with Trinette someday. That wasn't the intention. I just don't want to be angry, and I don't want to be afraid, even when thinking of her. With that, Trinette turns in the opposite direction and walks away, her recently freed comrade following close behind. Hey, Buttercup. As she steps further down the path, Trinette's other goon emerges from a hiding place and joins their boss and comrade. They were there the entire time. January and I settle back, sighing with relief. We look at one another. I'm at a loss for words, and January seems no better. I believe we should find another hiding place, and wait to see if Key and Piper or the bandits come along.
Certainly.
Agreed. She looks African and scary. Scary, yes. Phenomenal hair, though. Like, one cannot fault her hair game. Great fashion as well, aside from these little pantaloon things, whatever they are. The pink pantaloons are ugly. But the rest of her outfit is on point. And the hair. Absolutely cannot fault her hair game.
Certainly.
We search nearby and find a good place with lots of brush and large rocks to conceal ourselves. Weaves. I love her pantaloons. Ugh. We both stay hidden and silently watch as the sun slowly begins to set. Our unspoken fears appear to be coming true as the long shadows of twilight are replaced by an all-consuming darkness. The suppressive part of the path is even more unsettling at night. January and I continue to hide in amidst the rocks, waiting for a sign. There's been nothing since Trinette left. Jamie, I believe the time has come to search for Piper and Key. If they were able to rendezvous with us, they would have done so by now. We couldn't possibly go to the safe house without them. You need a girl with some flavor? Hell yeah! Get you a spicy lady. I was hoping you'd say that. Let's head back to the carriage crash site and see what we can find. Agreed. Determined and somewhat anxious, we push our way into the night. After some distance, we finally hear noises. We cannot immediately tell who they are coming from, so we dart into a large shrub. Unfortunately, the bush prevents us from seeing anything, but eventually I am able to recognize the voice. Nothing else we can do, just got to keep trudging along.
And
You know, when this job is over, I think I'm going back to the city, or maybe some other city for a vacation. I've really got to shop for a new headdress. This one just isn't fancy enough, don't you think so? If there really is anyone listening, they don't respond to her question. Although summer might not be a good time to wear an extravagant hat. Maybe a nice sun umbrella will be good. Her voice fades off as our party continues to walk in the opposite direction. Once the road is silent for at least a minute, January and I emerge from our hiding place. I like Felicity as well. Vicious bandit. Who wants a great hat? She wants a nice hat. That's an African American with weaves. It's fine. Am I supposed to have something against weaves? She's heading away from the carriage. We have to go now. January nods and we hurry on. Soon we are able to make it back to the spot, and I softly gasp. Piper and Key are lying on their stomachs on the ground, arms tied behind their backs. Lewis is also tied to a tree not far from them. There are several bandits who were left behind. January and I exchange a serious look. We can't leave them like this. I'll create the distraction to draw them free, then untie Key and Piper. Very well, but remember not to overwhelm yourself. He smiles softly, then focuses on some high tree branches on the opposite side of the clearing from us, and rustles them with his power. Sure enough, most of the guards promptly rise to investigate, but one stays behind to keep watch. January stares at the bandit with resolve. I can tell what he's thinking just by the look on his face. He's not going to let this person stand in his way. I'll use something to strike him down, and then untie the others. They're unbelievable. No, that is too much. Trying to do 3 different tasks in a row is going to wear you out. If you take care of the bandit, I will untie the others. He looks even more worried at my recommendation. Do not worry, getting them free won't be hard, even for me. All I'll have to do is borrow Key's knife. If you can, return to making the distraction after this bandit is taken care of. His confidence regained, January turns towards the remaining bandit. Using his power, he lifts a board from the ruined carriage, moving in a position behind the unsuspecting bandit's head. With a swift motion, the board crashes into the man's head. He slumps over. January releases a heavy breath. I give him a small pat on the shoulder before taking my own task. As I rush into the center of the road, I can tell January has restarted his efforts to lead the bandits astray. I get between Key and Piper, then graciously flip Key over onto their back. Despite being the one restrained, Key looks at me with concern. Paying the word no heed, I continue my mission to reach into Key's coat, looking for their knife. Rooting around in Key's clothes makes them cringe, however they realize right away what I'm doing and shift their left shoulders to show me where they store it. Down with Trump, indeed. Finally, I pull the knife out. In only a few moments, their wrists are torn free. Key forcibly sets themselves up. Workin' Piper, and I can untie my legs. I nod, then turn to cut Piper's hands free. She rolls over and sits up, rubbing her wrists.
Thanks.
Much appreciated. Together we make quick work of the remaining ties, and soon all stand up. But that's as far as we go. I look over and see Felicity has returned with a couple bandits that must have been accompanying her. She shakes her head. I knew I couldn't leave for very long. Piper and Key both take defensive stances, looking ready for a fight. I do my best to do the same. Now convicted felon? Yep. Felicity's bandits all ready themselves as well. Felicity herself puts that metal thing around her fingers again. Why is everyone but January here? You can't seriously have left him alone somewhere. None of us answer.
Come now.
Come on! I've got you stranded out here. And even if you somehow make it to wherever you're going, I'll still be right behind you. How can you not see the writing on the wall already? I am not afraid of what will happen next. Okay, maybe this will get your attention. We're not going to make this easy anymore. I don't care if Mr. Duke will throw a fit. We're not taking prisoners. Stand down, because if you lose, I'm afraid you'll have to die. Good luck! Fine. You shouldn't have treated this like it was nothing to begin with. This is important. Well, you're welcome then. And also, now I know with certainty that we will win this round. Unexpectedly, that gets the most reaction out of Key, who whispers under their breath. We have no idea what Key's future holds, though. We know that me, Piper, and January will all survive. We have no idea if Key will survive. Key very well may die here. Unperturbed, Felicity gives a motion with her head, and two bandits guardedly approach, each holding a makeshift club as a weapon. Piper surprises everyone with a sudden rush, taking the nearest bandit and kicking his weapon free. She slams him in the chest with her elbow, and there is a scramble between the two for the weapon. Piper is ultimately successful. Key, though less elegantly, is able to wrestle the weapon away from the second bandit. I still have Key's knife, which I clumsily brandish forward. There is no one close enough to strike, but keeping them away is my intention. Piper and Key take a few steps back, holding their stolen weapons up. It's Felicity's turn to be aggressive as she moves towards us, her knuckles glinting. Key swings at her, but the young woman dodges and throws a few punches. Key narrowly avoids them, then moves away further as the bandits close in around us. In return, I go towards the other two and end up with my back at Piper's side. We nod at each other as we fend off our attackers. Without weapons, the bandits are easy to keep at bay. However, we're not able to land any significant blows either. Felicity rushes in again, punching straight at Piper. Piper braces her club lengthwise in both hands, taking the punch of the wooden weapon. As the hit connects, she twists the club violently, throwing Felicity off balance. Before Piper can capitalize on it, the bandits rush over to cover her. Felicity stands straight as it seems this stalemate is not over yet. That is, until we hear shouting in the distance. The bandits January has been preoccupying must have heard the sounds of our fight. We won't be able to handle more than this. Felicity puts that together as well and crosses her arms rather smugly. We're all snapped out of our thoughts by a loud whinny and Lewis slamming his massive front hooves into the ground. On top is January, smiling as he tries not to fall off himself. Shall we go? No one argues with that. I practically throw myself up with January giving me a hand, and he makes room at the front for Piper. She vaults up, kicking a bandit who tries to get close. Key climbs up as well behind me, throwing their club at another bandit and hitting them right in the face. Hell yeah, throwing weapons always works. Felicity, who didn't bother approaching the horse, watches us as we start to ride away. Just before we get out of earshot, I hear her last response.
Good for them.
Why are the villains rooting for us? It's hilarious. The villains are like, well, you know what? I'm rooting for you. I'm trying to capture you, but you know what? I hope you get away. Once again, we make an escape, riding perilously for safety away from our pursuers. Eventually, January signals to stop. Piper obliges, pulling on Lewis's mane. I recognize this place. You need to come through here to reach the safe house. Finally! Actual progress. Maybe that's a sign this is a good time to get some rest. It's already late and I've had barely a few hours of sleep as it is. Sounds reasonable. We should each catch a little sleep, then get going before the sun rises and continue on until we reach the safe house. Yeah. Also, we're going to have one short person shifts rather than long two people ones. There's just not enough time. As one, Piper, January, and I'll say, I'll take first watch. Key shakes her head. I'll take first watch. It was my idea, after all. Oh, and during your watch, eat half of a food package. Might as well get sleeping and eating over within one cycle. No one has any objections. We decide to take shelter in what remains of a building on the other side of the river. As we reach the ruins, Piper takes care to guide Lewis behind some walls to conceal him. He finds a nice patch of grass and takes a rest of his own, looking rather content. The rest of us head towards the doorway. Looks like the ruins were built directly into the hill, and the entranceway leads into a pitch-black room. Key goes first to check the dimensions, then comes out. It'll be tight, but you should all fit. At least you won't be seen in here. I'm about to step inside when it strikes me that there's something I need to tell Piper and Key about. Now that we are in immediate danger, I would like to let you know that Trinette has returned to her headquarters. Key looks completely taken by surprise by the news. Piper doesn't. Apparently, she doesn't have time to search for us herself anymore. We can assume she's leaving it to the bandits to finish the job or not. Well, outlasting Trinette was the original plan, but I don't think we can count this as things working out as expected for once. Those bandits are definitely not what we prepared for. Even if it is not what we thought would happen, this is still an improvement from when all of them were working together.
Yes, I'm glad you're both all right.
Are you all right? Speaking of Trinette, always seemed to make you upset. Did she do something to you? Piper rubs the back of her neck while looking off to the side. I wonder if she's considering a way to avoid answering the question. Whether she couldn't think of something or decided we should know, Piper looks back towards us ready to reply. It's not what you think. Trinette never did anything bad to me specifically. It's just that being around her makes me reflect on myself. Then why have you always insisted on how terrible she was? It's because I always consider myself better than her. As long as I haven't gone as far as she has, then I can justify how I am. But being better than a violent criminal isn't much of an accomplishment, especially if any good qualities she may or may not have are a threat. She sighs more deeply than I've ever heard her. Hey, Gillface. That is a rather unexpected thought process. However, if it matters, I can say with certainty that you are better than she is, and not merely because you do not harm others as a career. You're still here. They're sisters. That would be a very cool twist, but... Or exes. They could be exes. Either sisters or exes. Either would actually be like, yeah, I could see it. She looks away again, seeming out of her element. This is why I don't want to talk about myself. This is why I don't talk about myself much. It's a pretty lousy story.
However,
regardless of your personal compunctions, I would wish to know more about you.
Come on.
Me too. Agreed. Piper smiles at us, which, though slight, seems sincerer than her usual smiles. I'll think about it. For now, let's get some rest. No one argues that point. Just getting a drink. Just needed to get me a drinky poo. Why the hell did I say drinky poo? Why did I say drinky poo? Who the fuck says that? Piper, January, and I head inside and, after a little work, managed to get ourselves placed on the floor on which to sleep. Or placed on the floor. From my position, I can see Key silhouetted against the opening. We're all resting in silence for a short time, but I feel a tugging that I can't ignore. January, you're lying on my cloak and pulling it. My apologies, but I cannot move. There's nowhere else to go. At least let me pull my cloak out from under you. Go on. After briefly groping around in the near-complete darkness, I managed to grab hold of the correct bunch of my cloak. Unfortunately, my arm cannot bend far enough to pull the cloth all the way out from under January. I push my foot against January's back to temporarily force some distance between us. We enter. You're kicking me. I have to. No need to get worked up. I can trade places with one of you if that will help. There's even less room in your spot, and you're there because you're the smallest. And it's still uncomfortable even for me. Sacrifices have to be made in one way or another. Key whispers from outside.
Hey.
Why don't one of you come outside and sleep in a bush? Each of us say no thank you in unison. I finally free myself, sighing in relief. That ease of tension seems to help the others relax as well. Key returns to their watch and we all settle in to rest. I feel like I've barely shut my eyes when I notice someone nudging me. I blink and for a moment I'm disoriented by the total blackness.
Hello.
Are you awake, Jamie? It's your turn to watch. Spooning party? Yep. I turn to the sound of Piper's voice and now I can see her backlit by the glow of moon coming into the room. Thank you for getting me. Quietly, I step out of the hiding place into the open air. After the warmth of that enclosed room, the outdoor air feels brisk, even a little cold. Hey, do you like me to watch with you? I wouldn't mind. I turn to Piper, who is still standing near the entranceway, and I nod. I'd like that. Piper smiles at me, and together we find a spot to sit where we're mostly out of view. We both take a post watching different sides of the field. Don't stay too long. You need rest too. She snickers more quietly than I would have thought possible. Blinking is for lazy people. Yep.
Clearly.
I won't. Thank you for being so responsible. Someone has to be. We both share a quiet laugh at that, then return to our silent watching. I really do appreciate the company. Time passes slowly. I know she's out there somewhere. Felicity. I don't know what to make of her. I probably never will. I do know that I do not want to be someone like her, not anymore. Unfortunately, my mind then begins mulling over an especially out-of-place idea. I wonder what Trinette is doing. Perhaps she came to mind because I am feeling a bit homesick again. Last time a situation like this occurred, the two of us had a conversation. No matter. Being secure enough to feel homesick has become a luxury, and one of the reasons I am safer is because she's gone. I sigh to spite myself and take another brief look at the sky. Remaining at full focus for some time, I start to hear faint noises. I duck down behind a large chunk of stone and peer up behind it. Even in the darkness, I can see signs of people making their way through the forest. Who they must be is no mystery. Piper and I share a glance. We're both aware of the situation and how serious it is. As quick as I can without making noise, I head back to the entrance of the chamber and whisper inside. Wake up, everyone! The bandits are coming! Key gets up so fast I wonder if they were even asleep. They squeeze themselves out from between January and a wall and head to my lookout spot to confirm my report. They groan and rub their face at the sight. They're coming this way, that's for sure. Piper rises to her feet as January joins the rest of us in watching the bandits approach. I must wonder why they came this way. The fraction may not be terribly long, but it is rather wide. There are other options in which to go, yet they keep finding us. We've come down this far already. If we were going to turn into the center, we would have done it a while ago. Makes sense they were able to come to a conclusion about where our destination is. Just then, from the other direction, I hear more voices. I turn towards the sound and double take. This isn't good. Another group of bandits is approaching from the other side of the hill. Look there! Key's eyes follow the direction of my pointing, and they grumble louder than before. It's not going to be safe to hide it out here until they pass. There are too many bandits roaming around who could spot us, or Lewis. How many bandits are there? Can anyone tell? It looks like there's 7. 3 in that group and 4 in the other.
I see.
In that case, I suggest we make our move now. It won't be long until they're fully upon us.
Understand?
You got it. Everyone get to Lewis. We're leaving. We rush over to where Lewis has been resting and hastily climb to his back. He seems a little startled, and it takes him a second to respond to Piper's orders. In the meantime, the bandits have started to run in our direction, and we are barely able to gallop away as they close in. We don't get to run very far. Soon we come to the edge of the land fraction and are forced to stop. We climb off, and I see Lewis panting. This must be wearing him down. Key rubs the sides of their heads miserably. Take heart, Key. We are still close. We'd be closer if we hadn't been spotted so soon. There's no use worrying about that now. Key slumps to the ground, looking totally dejected.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, everyone. There hasn't been a single day of this trip without a disaster. That's not entirely true. The only thing that happened the first day was we found out January was abnormal. That wasn't a disaster. Key doesn't reply. And technically, things went pretty well for us yesterday. It wasn't until early today that trouble came back around. Key flops backwards full length on the ground and then rolls on their side.
Why?
I can't believe days like that are qualifying as good. We try, and what do we get? Having people kidnapped twice in one day. January smiles slightly. Things must improve eventually. We have negotiated other disasters. We only need to solve this one. I don't want a pity party. What do you want then? Nothing. This is my way of cheering myself up. How does that work? I like complaining. I'd rather do that than pretend it didn't happen or it doesn't matter. I'd definitely rather talk about it than not say anything. This book almost over. I'm pretty sure we are near the end. Should have known. Aha, I see. I think I understand you a little better. Interesting.
Listen.
Alright, look, this is still serious. Those bandits are probably headed this way. I don't want to be a downer again, but I think we have to come up with a new plan. Fast. It seems like we can count on them catching up to us, and if we get pulled into another fight, it will be very bad news for our side. Perhaps we need to find a more secure hiding place. We could replicate Trinette's scheme and form a floating island no one can reach. Once we are sure the bandits are gone, I could simply pull us back. Good suggestion. Unfortunately, the ground here is a lot sturdier, and I don't see any already floating chunks for us to use either.
Perhaps.
Very well. Perhaps a high ledge will do. I could lift us to an unreachable spot for a time. There are no high ledges here, and if we're leaving, we may as well just keep running. But, good effort. Piper and I clearly realize something and speak at once. You can lift people? Key looks at us curiously, still not understanding, apparently. Yes, why wouldn't I be able to?
Regardless.
Not entirely sure why myself, but I've never heard of a riser who could lift living creatures. It is a skill that is rarely needed, and someone could easily get hurt in the process of learning it. Because of that, risers are not trained in that area, and it is considered taboo to teach yourself. So you've actually lifted a person before?
Indeed.
How did you believe I escaped from Trinette in the first place? Whilst in my hotel room, there was an attack. My police escorts determined there was no way to escape the 4th floor we were on without confronting her. I was ordered to hide anywhere while they tried to secure the situation. I was deeply panicked, and my only thought was that I needed to get away. When all the police left the room to join the effort in keeping her on a lower floor, I made my way over to a window and cast myself out. After making sure there was no one in the alley beneath who could spot me, of course. Have you considered blessing us with your presence in our Discord? This is stressed by 6%. Set of drugs, Killface. I used my power to slow my fall and ran haphazardly through the back streets of Meow until the start of all this. Well, that explains that.
Impressive.
Yes, very impressive. A truly ingenious idea begins forming in my head. January, exactly how adept are you at carrying people? I fear I do not know what the bar of quality is for that skill. Why do you ask? If I remember correctly, wasn't your original preference to go to your actual home? January frowns at me, clearly puzzled. Then his eyes go wide, and an unusually confident smirk forms on his mouth. I conducted the studies, but you don't do drugs? Yeah, I was suggesting it for you. I was suggesting the drugs for you. I was suggesting you take the drugs.
I see. I could do that.
I see Piper nodding and giving her old, knowing smile as well. Key taps the tips of their fingers together, looking a little uneasy.
So,
Unless I'm hearing you wrong, you're suggesting we jump off the land fraction? Yes, that is what we're suggesting. It's perfect. We'd finally be safe. No one could possibly follow us there. What is that? It is Calypso. Strawberry lemonade. Calypso brand strawberry lemonade. Taking drugs right now? It's not enough. Take more drugs. Hey kids, doing drugs is cool. The more you know. You love Calypsos? I need to remind myself what the more you know jingle sounded like. Never had it? It's not bad. This one is not Canadian. This one apparently bottled by King Juice Company in Milwaukee. Drinking Tropicana pink lemonade. I always take more herbal remedies. Good, good. Key's fingers scrunch and one eye slightly twitches. Then let's do it. Their hands completely ball into fists and they breathe so heavily their shoulders visibly move up and down with their breaths. Piper watches with a bemused expression Key for a moment and then turns to January. Another change in plans, huh? I doubt anyone is surprised by that now. Are you absolutely certain you won't drop us? Certainly. I can carry everyone. He pauses, then looks past the three of us to something else.
I am sorry.
Except for Lewis. I am able to hold living creatures, but I require cooperation. If the person or animal continuously moves, it will break my hold. Unless we can keep Lewis perfectly still, I will almost certainly drop him at some point along the way. Key and I both say, oh, making it clear our disappointment. I look at our good friend and think how many times he saved us. Is this really where we leave him behind? Piper's smile softens. We all knew we couldn't keep him forever. He belongs out here. In fact, after all this excitement, he's probably more than ready to amble on back to that field we found him in. Aw, we have to leave behind our horse friend. But I consider, perchance, joining us magnanimous and perfect ladies. Nah, Lewis is a good boy. Lewis is a good boy. Lewis has been a great boy. He's been the best horse. She walks over and pats Lewis' face in a tender gesture.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lewis. Honestly, you are probably the most capable member of this team. Better than me, I'm sure. She shakes her head and her eyes seem to shimmer. I feel a lump form in my throat, and soon we're all beside Lewis, patting him and giving him our final words of thanks. What do we have to leave him? Because we're jumping off the, like an Oregon Trail, they leave their oxen. We have to leave Lewis behind because we're jumping off the side of the planet. That's basically what it comes down to. We're gonna jump right off the side of the planet, so we can't bring the horse with us to do that. I'll miss you, Lewis. Take care of yourself. I'll come visit you someday. There'll be more fruit next time and maybe some packaged stuff. You sort of had a thing for that too, huh? As I look into his deep, dark eyes, I think that it would be nice if any of this was getting through to him. However, he mostly seems confused by the sudden crowding. He is a simple boy, and I weakly chuckle over it. He's a simple boy. I like that. I like that phrasing. He is a simple boy. Me and Lewis both, man. Me and Lewis both. Discord? Nah. Eventually, we all back away, and Key sighs.
Hurry up.
Alright, it's now or never. We've got to go before the bandits spot us. It'd be pretty bad if they saw us throw ourselves to our seemingly inevitable deaths. Then let's make it now. I head straight for the edge and look down towards the ground so far away. Soon the others have joined me. Looking down, it really seems bottomless in the darkness. One other caution. I have some trouble holding several disconnected objects. If we could all hold on to one another, it would greatly assist me. A simple good boy, yep. Anything you can do for me this evening? I'm good, Killface, I'm good. We exchange some quick looks, and no one looks to have any issues with the request. I hold my hand out to Key, who takes it. They hold their other hand out to Piper. She grabs hold, then reaches for January on the other end. He takes it and smiles at us. Should one of us raise our hands for the signal before we do this?
All right, then.
If it makes you feel better. Key looks over the edge again and thrusts their hand into the air, pulling Piper's up with it. We all laugh as one. Okay, we're gonna jump now. Together we leap over the edge into the sky. For a moment we are in free fall, and I desperately use my right arm to keep my mask from lifting off my face. Then a soft light covers us, and our speed gradually slows until we are gently floating downwards. Good work, January. They say that calmly, but their body language says they are just barely stopping themselves from flailing around in a panic.
Thank you.
Yet let us not be too congratulatory. There remains a great distance between us and safety. True, but you were never going to die here anyways, right? Huh, you're correct. I think I'd actually forgotten that for a second. Here for you if you need me. Until you end the stream and then I can't be there for you anymore. True. That is true, Killface. We laugh. January isn't especially skilled in moving quickly either, so we drifted through the rest of the night. However, I had no qualms with that. If we had been rapidly moving towards the ground, I would have been in a panicked state akin to Key, even if I do trust January. When our feet finally touched the sparkling sands at the surface, I noticed my legs shaking. It is as though the knowledge on how to walk was momentarily taken from my mind. There is a soft thump, but I'm still standing. I carefully turn my head to the side, forgetting that I am free to move as I wish again, and realize it was January. He's let go of Piper's hand and is sitting in the dust. Before I can ask if he is well, Key follows his example and falls down to the ground. Except they do not bother letting go of Piper and I, intentionally pulling us with them. I'm not able to put up any resistance and awkwardly fall backwards. Our group collision with the land whips up a cloud of dirt around us three. Key laughs in between sand-filled chokes up for air. They release us from their grasp to bring their hands to their face. How do we rope Rara in? Will I follow Rara? Hey, Habibi! If you had Discord, you could have access to me whenever you need it. What if for once we need you? If only there's a place where we could be for streams. What's happening? We just jumped off the side of the planet. We jumped off the side of the planet, and I am not getting Discord. Is this real? I can't believe we actually jumped off the land fraction. It truly is hard to believe when I stop to think about it. I stare at the sky above and catch glimpses of the land fraction through the cloud layer. It is a rather surreal sight from this perspective. Everything about the sky seems different here. I smile and allow myself to also have a moment to recoup. Then, as January is scooting a little closer to our pile, Piper takes up a small handful of sand and tosses it up over him.
I wouldn't want you to miss out.
He waves the dirt puff out of his face with both hands, and his eyes become slightly watery, though that may not be from the sand. Did we land okay? Yep, we landed okay. I want to say something to him, but I don't find the words. I close my mouth, remaining silent instead. We couldn't take the horse. Yeah. We had to leave a horse behind. Lewis, the best boy. Best horse, simple boy, Lewis. He is just a simple boy, but we had to leave him behind. Alright. How far do we still have to go? What? Ah, yes, my home. It depends a great deal on how quickly we travel. I know the direction we must go from here, at least. I'm your Lewis. Lewis is safe. Well, that's good enough for me. Let's get started. Keith thrusts themselves back to their feet. Despite being clearly sleep-deprived, they're bounding with uneasy energy. Right, we can't take long. We only have 2 food packages and there's no water down here. Very well, I am ready to depart immediately. Key nods their head far too quickly. The lack of supplies is obviously wearing on their mind. You may be interested to know that my employees have placed strategic caches of supplies at locations along the route, in case of emergencies. We'll almost certainly be able to restock before arriving at our final destination. Why didn't you say that sooner? I was panicking. Yes, we noticed. And can you blame me? The desert is the last place you want to be when you've got no supplies. Piper gives me a look as she stands. With slight hesitation, she offers a hand towards me. I mimic her hesitation, though ultimately accept the offer.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry, Key. No one blames you. It's harder for you not to worry about something. Key ignores the comment. January and I do not, chuckling over it. Point the way, January. We've got to move. January gestures off into the distance, and Key leads us as we start to walk. Even though we set out with firm resolve, it isn't long before we start to slow down. That night with no sleep left me feeling like my arms and legs weighed twice as much as normal. I can see everyone else feels the effects, and our pace becomes sluggish at best. Key shakes himself and pulls the food packages out. We should keep going until we find a place out of the sun, then we can rest. In the meantime, let's eat the last of our food. Even if it means we're hungry when we break tonight, it'll still be better than being hungry, hot, and exhausted right now. Without stopping our march, Key opens the 2 food packages and distributes them to us. Key settles up to my side and gives me my share one at a time in small pieces, allowing me to slip the food under my mask without having to lift it. It's a much slower process, but still preferable to having to halt our progress entirely. After we've all nearly finished, January speaks up.
So,
You know, something has been on my mind since we last escaped. How did the 3 of you get off that tiny piece of land? When last I saw it, you were still quite a distance from the main fraction.
Key made the jump.
Really? That's incredible.
Key ducks their head a little at the compliment.
Sprinting off a cliff was how Key lost their hat. I'm still not sure about how I feel over the loss. That hat seemed almost as though it was a part of Key's head. The extra covering also made it easier for me to relate to them.
Key chokes again, though not on sand this time. All right. And how about monocleless January?
You could say he looked more distinguished with it, but I found it somewhat silly.
Is that so?
What was silly about it?
indeed.
I thought it was a rather moderate design.
It simply was. You had a circle of glass over one eye. That is an unusual concept. Though now we're discussing it, I realize Piper didn't lose anything on this trip. The others all look briefly uncomfortable, and I know they're thinking about what I lost. That makes me think about it too, and I look down, absently rubbing the stump of my wrist with my remaining hand.
You're not wrong.
And I have you to thank for that. I merely picked up an earring.
Piper's in thought for a short while. She then flips open the flap on one of her little pouches and begins shifting through the contents. I intend to ask what she's rooting around for when she gives a satisfactory smile. Out of the pouch comes a small jewel. She moves it through her fingers in an elaborate way that I'm certain I could never imitate. I find the way it shines as she dances it in her hands somewhat enchanting, even if it is an ultimately useless item for someone such as myself. The brief shows an abrupt and startling conclusion as she hurls the glinting stone far out into the desert. Oh my, what was that for? It wouldn't have been fair if I was the only odd one out, so now I've lost something too. I laugh. Of course, she took the time to show off, despite intending to simply dispose of it. Does it actually count as losing something if you threw it away on purpose? I say we accept it. We don't want her dropping our stuff everywhere so she can feel included. Very true. Who knows what I'll misplace next? Fine, fine. I must say, this has made me curious as to what else you have in those pouches.
Well,
Not much. Some very basic first aid supplies, but mostly papers, writing utensils, and loose change. Out of all of that, I figured that jewel was worth the most. You didn't need to get rid of something with actual value. After all, by January's own admission, a monocle is easily replaceable for him, and Key's hat must have been worth only slightly more than the dirt beneath our feet. Hey, you don't know anything about how much clothing costs. Regardless, one would have to be a fool to pay anything of significance for that. We all start laughing at that. Now, if you don't mind going back to a previous topic, I had a question for you, Jamie. What do abnormals do for those who need glasses? Are there masks with lenses built in? Hey, Kelly. No idea what's going on? We're almost done, I think. Keep it a secret, or just actually explain? Well, you see, some masks do have lenses within the eye holes, but in many cases their eyes are altered over a few weeks by a healer, so that they no longer need glasses. They all look speechless by this revelation.
I see.
I had no idea such maladies could be cured by abnormals. It depends on how talented the healer is, and how bad the eyes are.
of course.
Either way, that's amazing. I am glad I don't need to have to use glasses. When I was younger, I knew someone who eventually grew to be rabbit reader, and they had a hard time with the lenses of their childhood mask. They were not responsible, and would allow the lenses to get dirty, or to shine in the light, making them stand out more than they were allowed. They were always getting in trouble for it. It's ladies. Eventually, they decided that they may as well have some fun with it, so they started using their glasses to intentionally shine glares on the wall during lessons. Just being an insomniac, looks fun, but I'm unfamiliar. We're very near the end of the visual novel anyway. Who's the person in the mask? We are the person in the mask. That is us, Killface. Buffalo Seer, aka Jamie. Anyone of those a healer? My eyes are just fine. I mean, as far as I know, I've never actually gone an eye test. But never felt any strain in my eyes. I cannot help feeling sympathetic for the situation. Though intentionally misbehaving does not sound acceptable either. Whatever happened to them? The council finally decided to request a powerful healer, snake healer to be exact, to come from another village and heal them. You see, usually a person never leaves their own town, but this time an exception was made. Rabbit Reader eventually adjusted to not having lenses and following the rules. Still means nothing to me. A lot less nerdier than I thought I was, I think. Trying to figure out what's going on. So a visual novel is basically, this. A visual novel, it's, you got sort of images on screen, there's a lot of reading, a lot of text. Sometimes you make choices. Does it have a cute lizard on the back of the Calypso? No.
No cute lizard. Like the pregame. I mean, sometimes, yeah, like there are. You do sometimes find video games that have like sort of like prologues where there's no like action going on. That's extended out to like the entire of the game.
Thanks.
Thanks for the explanation. What a place to grow up, that sanctuary. Just basically reading a book. Basically, abnormals sound more boggling and awe-worthy every time I learn something new. I feel the same towards normals. Intricately. Right, but like it's the whole thing. It's a, like it's basically, yeah, it's like a novel. It's a novel, but with a visual aspect to it. We continue to chat this way as we keep our steady progress through this vast wasteland. For some time, it truly seems as though there is nothing on the surface. But we're persistent and finally arrive at something. Stretching off into the distance is a long line of parallel metal strips. January seems especially pleased with the discovery, which I take as a very good sign. He takes a few long strides ahead of the rest of us with a grin, as wide as the desert itself.
We're definitely on the correct track, if you will.
Oh, joy of the railroad! We're definitely on the correct track, if you will. It's like a novel you read before the game to give you the pretense. Like it's a game eventually, right? No, this is the entire game. We're right near the end of the game right now. We've spent, 5 weeks? We've spent 5 weeks, and it's this. Do you think it's weird I know a bunch of shit about you, like 4 years worth? And you know nothing about me? I'm a shadow, a ghost in your soul? It is weird. It's strange having people know things about me. Piper raises an eyebrow in a teasing way.
Really?
You weren't sure before?
What?
I was sure, but somehow I feared it may have vanished or some other such unexpected debacle. I can't say I don't know that feeling. So what do we do now that we're here? All we need to do is follow it down that way until we arrive at a storage location. Then let us continue. No one disagrees with my obvious statement. Our little group trudges along through the unstable terrain. The bottom of my cloak drags along the sand, and I feel as though there are so many granules caught in it, it is actually slowing me down. I am not the only one suffering from an unsuitable outfit. The hem of Piper's dress snags on a splintered part of the train tracks. She stumbles forward, and there is an uncomfortably loud ripping sound. Modern Choose Your Own Adventure? Sort of. A little bit. Though, with most visual novels, it's a set story. Like, the story itself is basically going to play out exactly the same way no matter what choices you make. The choices you make are more going to affect your relationships with the characters, how you feel about yourself. It's going to change bits of dialogue here and there, but the story itself will usually play out much the same way. Basically the same way. Some of them have like different endings. Yeah, different endings, and like I said, a lot of them it's little things might change here and there, but the overall story will play out basically the same way. Best visual novel is Class of '09? Right. Yeah, Class of '09 is a visual novel. And very fun. After regaining her balance, she grimaces for a moment, but with a wave of both her hands and a rough smile,
She keeps walking. She cannot be bothered to care what happens with the dress any longer, apparently. I am not offended, and I am also very super chill. From now on, I'm never not going to have pants in my wardrobe. Oh yeah? I'm so hot right now, I'd probably trade outfits with you. I have to assume all of us have the same mental image of Key in a frilly dress, and Piper smirks.
Now that would be interesting.
Unfortunately, your pants are a little too big for me to get into. It'd only be more of a hassle. So you want into Key's pants, huh? You know, Key, perhaps you could leave the coat behind if you no longer have valuables other than your badge. Thanks for the consideration, but I've got to hold on to this. It's not like I'm going to die of heat stroke, it's just unpleasant, and I don't like leaving things behind. Thanks, Buttercup. Please. I do have playlists for it. I do have Class of '09 playlist. If you check in my playlists, you'll find Class of '09. I think all three... Pretty sure I've got all three of the Class of '09 games in that one playlist. Which one is Key? This middle one is Key. Middle one with their face, with the super pale skin and their face covered. Should have all three games in Class of '09 thing. Where is it? There it is. Huh? Do I not? Do I not have all three of them in there? I've got the flip side. I've got Class of '09, I've got Class of '09 on the flip side. No, huh. Alright, so the original Class of '09, Class of '09 didn't take as long as I thought. So I've got all three Class of '09 games in the same same playlist. First Class of '09, I guess, was only 3 episodes. Flipside was, or Re-Up was 5. And then Flipside was another 3. That's when I was when we need more games like that.
Certainly.
I am acutely aware of that fact about you. Despite shying away from the attention, as always, Key looks flattered by January's insinuation. Very well. Would you allow... Very well. Would you allow me to carry it for you? You've got a few layers yourself, no need to worry about me. Besides, I don't have the worst situation here or anything. Isn't that right, Jamie? Flipside went so fast. The first game went fast, too. First and third both went really fast. Finally, some acknowledgement. You people always think about yourselves. They snicker at my intentionally exaggerated comment.
Doing well?
Let me know if you feel lightheaded or anything. We can always take a break if we need to. That's far better than anyone getting ill. Don't worry. I'll tell you if I need a break. She smiles softly. Glad to hear it. Say, yeah, P.O. Box next month. It's been fucking freezing, Killface! It's like minus 13 today? It's fucking freezing! Monday, supposedly, will not be too bad. I am going to go down on a day that is not, holy shit, this is painfully cold.
I will go to the post office on a day that is not, holy shit, this sucks, cold. Just use Discord until it's warm enough to get a P.O. Box. Uber with inheritance. I don't want to! We don't actually have Uber in Cornwall. Like, I know I could take a cab, but I don't want to. It's within walking distance, I'm gonna fucking walk it! It's within walking distance, I'm gonna walk it. Cab only when absolutely necessary. I turn away from her, unsure how to handle all this attention she's giving me now. From the corner of my eye, I can see Piper has stopped smiling. She looks at me curiously for a bit, but doesn't say anything about it. Instead, she tries to smile again, but I can tell it is more nervous than happy. Silently, she keeps walking onward. A brief silence comes over us. I'ma just listen. Well, it is certainly incredible being out and about in a desert, Haven't you lived in the desert your whole life? More or less. I was never permitted to wander outside the limits of my home. I don't imagine the yard of a mansion counts as desert exploration.
So then.
Have you never left your home before now? I haven't heard of you going anywhere on the land fraction until this visit. Ah, you see, on various occasions I was taken to the land fraction for lessons, vacations, or to visit family, but always in secret. My family thought it prudent to let the world believe I remained sequestered at home. After I became Duke, those visits did stop entirely for a while. He pauses and gives us all a sidelong look. There was one time I tried to sneak out. Now that is hard to believe, considering how skittish you were initially. What happened? Negative 13 Celsius. Yeah, negative 13 Celsius, which sucks. Is that in Fahrenheit? Very close to 0. It is very close to 0 degrees Fahrenheit. Do you want to be out and about when it's fucking 0? When the temperature is no? Like, if you looked at your a thermometer, if you were checking the weather report, and you looked at the thermometer and it just said, nope, you'd probably be like, you know what? I think I'm gonna stay in. I think I'm gonna stay in today. Well, it's 9 degrees in Fahrenheit. Right, yes. Like, it's very close to 0 degrees Fahrenheit. It's about 7 here. Yeah. Which, like, screw that noise. It was one of my earliest memories.
Clearly.
Of course. Back when you were too young to really know about following rules, right? Negative 13 isn't that cold. It's cold enough! Negative 13 is cold enough, Kelly. I have been out in colder weather. I have walked a farther distance in colder weather, but it sucks. Negative 13 sucks. More than 0. Bad with conversions. I mean, it is above 0, but not by much. It's honestly not that much above 0.
Ah, indeed. I recall having a great desire to get over the wall that surrounded our house. I wanted to see what was beyond. So I went up close and craned my neck back as high as I could, trying to see the top. As you might assume, when I was young, I knew even less about controlling my power. The desire to get over the wall activated, however, and I slowly floated upwards. Unfortunately for my young self, but luckily for reasonable adults, I was spotted by a god before I had progressed very far. After that, I never attempted such a thing again because I learned it was wrong to be disobedient. Your family was awfully lucky that you were prone to following authority. Abnormal children are often a great danger to themselves and others. Generally, you need trained adult abnormals to manage one.
You know.
Seriously, superpowered babies is asking for trouble. I kind of wonder if one of the reasons January's family decided to live on the surface of all places was to keep him from going anywhere. Even if he wanted to be a brat who used his power to run away, there'd be absolutely nothing worth doing. Even in unpopulated areas of the land fraction, there are at least nice streams and stuff to hang around. Get snow tomorrow? Boo. I walked my kid to school and made it -20 to -30. Yeah, that sucks. January chuckles and kicks a bit of sand at Key. That is a possibility I had not considered. I know we're at 2 hours, but I'm pretty sure we're close enough to the end that I can just finish it. After following the track for a while, we spot something up ahead. Key starts hustling over when they see it, and we all quickly follow. Once we get near, I see it as some kind of platform with a crossbar on top. Wow, I wonder if it still works. Key looks it over, inspecting the various parts and nodding. Have you even learned where I stay? Discord.
All right.
This should move. Modded Buttercup, she's earned it. In all likelihood, I probably will at some point. This should move. The workmanship on these things was really good to let them last this long. We can use this handbar to really speed up our travel. And with this, only 2 people will need to work at a time, so the other 2 can take it easy.
Pardon me?
Actually, I could use my power to move both ends on my own. We've all been walking for so long, it would be best to let as many of you rest as possible.
No way. You were just using your power all night. If anyone needs a break, it's you. If we haven't spotted anything in a couple hours, then you bet you're going to be put to work. See, so I don't know your state I talk about. I'm sorry, Killface, I forget. I have a shit memory. Key climbs aboard without another word.
Very well, as you suggest.
January follows behind, looking quite content. I also expect to be given a shift. Key turns back and gives me a concerned look, but nods.
Be careful.
Just don't overdo it.
Understood.
Piper pats my shoulder in passing as she too gets aboard the handcar. I follow suit and find a place to situate myself. Piper and Key take the first shift, pumping at the metal bar up and down. It is painfully creaky initially. The wheels force themselves to turn against the wishes of all the dirt that had coated the thing in all its time of being stationary. Thing is, Killface, I don't think I can tonight. Do you even remember what region I live in? Was it West Coast? .29 Fahrenheit and I'm cold. That's -1. Yeah, in Canada, -1 is like, I can handle it. Because I'm not on, like, I'm not sure if I can from my phone. Because I'm not, like, logged into, like, because I'm not using like the actual site, because I'm streaming from another thing. Because I'm streaming for another from another platform, like through an app through Streamlabs. Kentucky. Ah. Well, I was way off. I was super far off. The two persist, and soon the car truly begins to move forward. It isn't long after that before it is broken in completely, and we're easing ahead at a comfortable rate. The methodic, predictable rhythm of the bar moving up and down continued nearly uninterrupted for a few hours. Because nothing of use came into sight, I was made to take over one side of the handle for a while. I had to use my right forearm to help my left hand push it down, but was able to manage. We started changing shifts more and more quickly as thirst and fatigue started to wear us all down. Finally, we were able to slow to a stop as we roll towards what looks to be a pile of debris vaguely shaped as a town. We all climbed off the handcar and wearily approached an abandoned settlement. This isn't the first one we've seen in our travels on the surface, however those were deemed unimportant by January. I trust his judgment, though I certainly cannot tell any difference between them. They're all just as unsettling as each other. I am curious about the people who were living here before. I wonder how they felt when they were leaving all of what they had behind to rot away in silence. I blame it on the tism. Melo says this tism, she has same memory. Never learned her friends' names. Yeah. Yeah, I don't learn names. Or faces. I never refer to anyone by their name. Legitimately, I never refer to people by name. It's so weird to me, like... You know, like, when you, like, two people are... Like, whenever... Like, you'll watch, like, a TV show or movie or, like, whatever. And people just, like, randomly call each other name, like... Hey, that's really funny, Mark! Like, what? He knows his name. Mark knows his name. Why are you saying it? That's really funny. Like, I don't... Like, it just seems weird to me. Just be like, that's a good one, Mark. Why? He knows his name. You don't need to remind him that his name is Mark, right? So I'm start giving desperate vibes here for his attention. Just saying. Well, like, because it's right there, because it's a bunch of people. When it's a group of people, I can understand it. You know, when you got, like, you know, a group of people talking, and it's like, hey, Mark. Hey, Mark, what were you saying earlier about this? So that's why I use the names on here, is just, you know, to let people know who I'm talking to. The thought is taken from my mind as Key speaks up, their voice hoarse. So, you know this place? Yes, I'm certain we passed by it when I first left to visit Mia.
What do you think?
Is there anything here, you think? Almost definitely. There's a collective sigh of relief. Okay, I'm sure everyone is thinking it'd be real nice to collapse on the ground right now, but we better find the stuff before we lose all the light. Are you really sure that's what everyone's thinking? And not just what you're thinking? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Let's split up. We'll meet back at the handcar in however long it takes. And be careful, this place looks really unstable, and I don't have the energy to dig you out if a building falls on you. Yes, understood, Chief. With spirits rising, we get going, heading our separate ways into this new kind of ruins. I finished searching one of the buildings. When I walked back out through the doorway, I noticed Piper standing in front of me.
I was going to search there too, but it seemed like you had it covered. Did you find anything? No.
Don't worry about it.
I haven't found anything yet either. Guess we shouldn't stop searching then. This place isn't that big, so it's only a matter of time. As she starts to turn to go, I hold up my hand to stop her. Is there something you need? I turn my head away, trying to prepare for what I want to say. Yes, I need to speak to you. I see her smile a little nervously. If you've got something to say, I won't ignore you. Go ahead. Well, I guess you always knew it would end up this way, which doesn't make this any easier for me. I should have listened to the warnings about letting my future affect my present. I've been acting foolishly, making things difficult for everyone else. I don't know how much this actually bothered you, but I shouldn't have done it either way. I'm sorry it took me so long to realize it. Piper's smile grows wistful. I could have warned you better about the dangers myself, but it was easier not to, so I didn't. I wouldn't have listened even if you had said something. Then I didn't have to stop warning you. You're right, I knew that eventually you'd become disillusioned with me. I could have made it less difficult rather than leaving it to January and Key to be there for you. But I suppose we're alike in that way. Because your future was fine. Because your future was fine, I felt no desire to work in improving the present. I was the one who forced myself into your life. It wasn't your responsibility to take care of me, just because I thought my vision of a future relationship meant we had one now. Piper pauses for a moment, thinking.
I'm sorry.
I accept your apology, but I have to apologize as well. We both know that I never really took your vision of our future together seriously. I didn't take much of anything with you guys seriously. And my penchant for keeping to myself wasn't the only reason why, as you may have realized. I simply didn't care enough, and that's not very nice. Thank you for listening. I accept your apology as well. You know, even now I'd much rather ignore that vision altogether. Honestly, I think I'm alright with leaving things as they are too. That works. Her gaze drifts sideways. I'm not saying I don't believe you anymore, but part of me sincerely hopes your vision was just a misunderstanding.
You're a good person, and you deserve to be with someone better.
It's more of an introductory thing to remember a name. Sure. Who needs advice on attention whoring? Learn it from a bitch like me. I think we should all have to wear name tags everywhere. Yep. I say it like a demon I got from that house bunny. Do you really think of yourself that way? Sometimes. Not wanting to talk to others doesn't make you a bad person. You don't have to apologize for being that way. Wish I had a friend to watch MLP with me. Maybe. It would make me a pretty bad spouse, though. Only if the other person didn't understand how you were, which would make them a pretty bad spouse. I don't know why you're standing up for me in this case. That hypothetical person you're criticizing is supposedly yourself, remember? I never said I would be that way. I do understand you. At least now I do. To some degree, at least. I guess so. I'll probably need someone like you to stick around in case I start falling in with the wrong type of people. Would you mind? No. I can manage that. Thanks, Jamie. You're welcome. Aw, they've come to an understanding. Hey, you two! Piper and I both turn, then follow the sound of Key's voice. Key and January are standing together near the handcar. What were you two just standing around for? We give non-committal shrugs. Fine, you don't have to explain. January found the supplies we need. There January goes again, getting all the food. Piper smirks at my comment, and January gets a big smile. Let's not squander my talent. I am famished. So, what do we have? Looks like the same fancy foodstuffs that you know who was using. Key pulls a couple out of their coat, handing one to me. There's also a large tank of water hidden in one of the houses. As he says this, January uses his power to float 2 cups towards Piper and me. Nodding gratefully, I tuck the package into one arm and use my hand to hold the water. We both take long drinks. I hadn't realized how thirsty I was until now. Piper doesn't want to become a gangbanger. And that's her choice. Key starts to pull the packages out for January and themselves. But before they can, January uses his powers again, lifting the packages up, opening them, and floating towards Piper and himself. He even opens the one Key handed to me. Key shakes her head, then pats January on the back. They plop down on the ground, holding the package for themselves. Much to Key's surprise, January opens their package too. That's a pretty neat trick, but does it really take less effort than just opening the packages normally?
I dare say it takes equivalent effort, but this way is so much more exciting.
I mean, yeah, if you've got telekinesis, use telekinesis! Do my own nails. Just found MLP nail stickers and gems I ordered. So excited. Nice. Nice, Kelly. I chuckle at how enthusiastic he is about his power. Piper merely smiles. Thank you, January.
Thanks.
You're quite welcome. We all settle in quietly and begin our meal. Hey, January. Yes, Key?
You know.
Has anyone else ever had to use these supplies before? Some poor employee of yours isn't going to come tumbling in here and be horrified that we've raided the stocks or anything, right? I've not heard of a time when someone resorted to using the stocks, no. Though, I doubt any of my employees would tell me even if they had. They would likely prefer not to worry me. Happy birthday, Kayla. Who's Kayla? I don't see a Kayla. But happy birthday, Kayla. Applejack and Rainbow Dash. Funnily enough, Rainbow Dash is my least favorite. Applejack? Probably just by default comes in 5th. Like, my list goes, like, Fluttershy is my favorite. Pinkie Pie and Rarity are tied for 2nd. Then Twilight Sparkle, then Applejack. Happy birthday, Kelly. Oh, it's your birthday, Kelly. Well, happy birthday, Kelly. Happy birthday, Kelly. I'm sorry, I totally missed you saying that. Actually, I think Killface might have actually just, like... Or Jordan. I think Jordan might have actually just... Very well may have just mistyped. Or is joking. But yeah, I missed you saying that it was your birthday. January 9th is such a fake birthday. And as a birthday gift, the universe killed Anita Bryant. I did see that Anita Bryant died today, which is a pretty nice birthday gift, I think. Because she was fucking awful. I didn't realize she wasn't dead already. Honestly, I didn't even know she was still alive. She lived longer than she deserved to. Whether they've been used before or not, they've certainly proved to be useful now.
Indeed.
I'll have to inform them of our stop once we reach my home so that they can replenish what was used. Fix your sleep schedule yet? No, it's actually gotten worse. My sleep schedule is actually getting worse every day somehow. I shift uncomfortably on the ground, feeling the grittiness. Another name I can't think of who she was.
She was a singer who turned into an anti-gay campaigner. She was like this huge anti-gay activist until she got hit in the face with a pie. Somebody hit her in the face with a pie, and it pretty much wrecked her entire campaign. Because it exposed her as being ridiculous. I shift uncomfortably on the ground, feeling the grittiness. The supplies are serviceable, but I have to say I prefer the way it was before when we were able to sit on real ground, rather than its unreliable cousin, sand. No kidding. Who knows if I'll ever be able to get all this stuff out.
I accepted that my clothes would be ruined ages ago. Catch up.
Key just sighs, and we all keep eating. Any jobs yet? Not really. No. Once we're finished, Key stands first. Something we likely all expected. They look down at January. Close to Christmas. True. How much longer till we reach your house?
Certainly.
As best I can tell, since the remainder of the journey must be made on foot, it should take several hours most likely. There's little chance we'll be able to reach it today. Tomorrow, certainly. Key nods with a sigh. That's good news, you know. Sorry, I'm just kind of tired of setting an estimate time of arrival. Every time we've made one on this trip, it's been thoroughly wrong. But I still have to ask. January laughs a bit, just a bit.
Are we agreed?
Alright, moving on. Why don't we all take a nap until the sun goes down, then finish in one go? When BFF is January 12th, and we celebrate her day every year? It's my birthday? Like, who says that? People whose birthday it is. It's my birthday is said by people whose birthday it is. Usually. Traditionally, at least.
Sure.
Not a bad idea. January and I give our agreements to the suggestion. Great. Key then stretches themselves out on the ground right where they are, covering their eyes with their arm. No one get excited about almost being there. We won't. Just take the advice yourself. Piper stands straight, smirking, and then nudges Key with her foot.
Trust me.
You might want to find a spot with less sun. It can be pretty harsh down here, even at sunset. Grumbling, Key rises, dusting themselves off. We all make our way closer to what remains of the town. Settling in against an old structure of what was once probably a house, we wish each other pleasant dreams, and soon we've each laid down to rest. I said it's not my birthday. I said traditionally. Traditionally, it would be said by people whose birthday it is. But you'd be baking on your scapegoat. Did you just call scapegoat homeless? Did you just say scapegoat is a baker? What? You think she's giving out handies behind the Arby's parking lot? Behind the Arby's dumpster? My history of not doing so is actually documented on this very channel. The Thanksgiving bitch fight? Not really. I've sort of forgotten it. Remind me? Oh, right, the fight about the word bitch. Yeah, that's right. Arguing about the word bitch. And I'm like, dude, I'm just trying to play. I'm just trying to do a happy little stream here. We can debate it another time. Usually names the stream after. Scrape it unprovoked. Bitch is offensive. That's right, yeah. Yeah, bitch is offensive. Begging you to finish this game. I'm pretty sure we're almost done. I thought, Jesus, it does go longer than I thought. Really amazes me the places I found myself sleeping in since leaving the sanctuary. As it is, I managed to sleep comfortably enough, though not for very long. When I wake, I can see the sun has already hidden itself away for the evening. I glance around, feeling fully attentive, and notice the others are still asleep. I can't rest more, so I do what I can to slink away without waking my friends. Luckily, the soft sand makes very little noise when disturbed. It's a good word. I walk off into the center of the pitiful town while peering upwards. I can make out enough from the position of the stars to tell that the sun won't be up for a while. We can't allow ourselves to oversleep, however, so perhaps I should rouse the rest of the team. I had full intercourse with a complete stranger I met in a McDonald's drive-thru. Right, but that was for fun, right? We're talking about, like, for money. McDonald's bathroom is for fun. Arby's dumpster is for money. Is for cash. Shamrock my shake. Who was blocked? She never came back after that? Yeah. I mean, I didn't block her. I suppose I'll ask Piper for starters. I tiptoe back and gently nudge Piper with my foot. She shifts around a bit before pulling herself up. She looks into my mask for only a moment and then stands up completely. I take this as a sign to go, and she follows me back away from the others. She waits until we're a safe distance away to speak.
Doing well?
What's going on? Budget sativa? I don't remember blocking her. I wasn't sure if I should wake the others now or let them sleep longer. Piper glances up at the sky, shaking sand off her as she does so. They can all sleep a little longer. She keeps rubbing off dirt while walking further off. Where are you going? Nowhere. I'd just rather stay awake. I am sorry for waking you. It's not a problem. We all have to get up soon as it is. No point in trying to get comfortable in the sand again. Good point. I sit down and lean back, watching the stars again. I see Piper turn towards me, looking curious. What are you doing? Waiting. There in the sand? Yes, it will have to do. Piper flicks her hands to the side, walks over, and sits next to me.
We might as well stick together then.
At first, we just sit in silence. Sitting here like this with Piper reminds me. I look down at the ground and kick at the sand. I'm sorry for not telling you about using the radio that morning. I did intend to do it at some point.
I'm fine.
You don't need to apologize for that again. I knew there was a good chance the person on the other end was Trinette. I should have just told you all that, but a time to bring it back up never came. And since we're on the subject, I should have been less vague in my warnings about her. I thought that if I just stayed relaxed, it would keep you all relaxed. Instead, all I did was leave you unaware of the real danger Trinette posed. But there's no use making excuses. I'm sorry to you. I rub my bandless wrist. I'd assume handless. Yeah, handless wrist. It's okay. I would never have blamed you for anything she did. There's only one person I hope you blame, the one responsible. I nod firmly, mostly to myself. Trinette had no reason to shoot at us. We were doing nothing to her. Admittedly, I still feel somewhat like it's my fault, but I can say at least that much for Trinette. Piper smiles sadly at me, and we once more fall silent. Seems like neither of us knows what to say now. Still, the silence isn't so bad. Gives me time to think. Was Trinette always this way? I can only guess. When I first met her, she was already that way, but I imagine not. Oh. Well, she had one difference. Back then, her eyes were still natural. Really? What were they like?
Perhaps.
Just normal brown eyes. She also seemed a little less threatening, but maybe that's because her eyes were less unsettling.
Then again, maybe I'm not one to talk about her. Why not? You're the only one who actually met her before now. But I never actually knew her. I just had impressions, ones that were skewed. Oh, right. You wanted to see yourself as better than her.
True.
Right. I hope you don't actually think you're as bad as she is because you have some issues. No, I won't use her as a comparison anymore. But I still think I should be better towards people. And that I could be better if I really tried. You're fine, Kelly. You're fine. Everything's good. Everything's okay. Everyone's good. Everyone's friends. Everyone here is friends. Yeah. Good night then, Kelly. I hope you're able to get some sleep. I think you will. Thanks for the vote of confidence. I give her a playful nudge. Of course. I've seen you get tough tasks done enough to know you're good at that.
Thanks. I've seen you do the same.
Hey, Beetlejuice. Miss some drama? Apparently some drama. Yeah. I think it's that, like... I don't think there's actual drama. I think it's Kelly thinking there's drama. It's a weird thing where, like, there's no actual drama. It's just Kelly has the perception that there's been drama. Can I see over here for a second? I mean, I can't really... It's all one live chat. That's true. I'm very good at meeting my goals. We both laugh at that. After a little while, we hear noises behind us, and we both look back. Key is rising and flicks January to get him up as well. Key sees us as a nod.
Hi.
Glad to see you're already up. Key walks over to us, and January follows shortly after, taking a moment to adjust. Piper and I both wave our greeting at them. January starts stretching out, and Key does their best to get dirt out of their hair. Over here means Discord. That whole sentence was super hot. So confused here. It's a confusing bunch, Kelly. It's a confusing bunch we got here. Jesus Christ, I'm starting to feel like I could have... Starting to wonder if I could have made this another entire fucking episode. After straightening themselves out, Key addresses all three of us.
We'll get through this.
This is it. The real last leg of the trip. There's going to be no stopping until we get there. Character looks like a black version of the blonde on 30 Rock. Pretty cartoon. It is nice art, I think. You burnt my rice. It'll happen. We each make it known that we understand. It is more solemn than I like. 7 more hours left, yeah. Good, let's get going then. Together we restart our trek across the desert. The finality of this starts to creep up on me. I choose to brush it off for now. We've been walking for a while, and the settlement we'd stayed in is far out of sight. I flick my eyes to stars every now and then, wondering at them. This honey is creative. That talent is waiting for you in Discord. I hope one of you knows how to follow the stars better than I. It has been many years since I was taught. Piper chuckles a bit and spins on her heels. She continues walking, only backwards now, while addressing me. What kind of explorer do you take me for? One that may have to rely on maps. Piper scoffs and dramatically flares the skirt of her absolutely ruined dress while turning frontward again. I almost feel compelled to apologize for what happened to it, but it's not truly my fault, and I know it'd only make her uncomfortable. Don't worry, I've got this taken care of. Pretend it's just a bad dream. We're walking the desert backwards now. Very good. A gust of wind whips past, interrupting our conversation. I hold down the top of my hood and hold back a cough. Despite being in the epitome of open space, the gust is musty and unpleasant.
So then,
Hey, I have a question for you, January. Oh, what is it? Did you hear anything while you were being held captive? Like where their hideout was, or where they had planned to take you? The question makes January seem a bit more uptight. However, he answers the question without hesitation.
Well,
Somewhere in Ellen was where they were taking me. Piper raises her eyebrow at the reply. Ellen. I cannot help but feel a twinge of suspicion myself. Out of the 15 different regions that exists, Ellen's heritage is the one that carries the chance of being born a riser. I feel as though I could make a solid guess about what January's connection to Ellen means in terms of how this bounty came to be, but it isn't my place to make assumptions about something as significant as that. Key cuts through the unease with an exasperated sigh. I can't believe that happened twice. Hey, no name. Key gives us a sour-looking face, shaking their head. It is so convincing I am unsure if their convenient interjection was actually intentional or not. Sorry for complaining. Go ahead, January. Let us know if there's anything else you want to say. Yes, well, that was the only thing of note. Only Felicity spoke to me, and Trinette was always careful not to speak much in my presence. She was even more insistent about it during that second time. I think she saw me as more of a threat.
interesting.
Who's Lee? I mean, call me anything. Interesting, but not surprising. There's no reason for her goons to handicap their chances of their success by disarming her weapon. She likely assumed one of us had a skill to do it somehow.
I see.
January gives a small smile without much cheer in it. Is that everything? Yeah, I didn't mean to make this unpleasant. I just wanted to double check. January turns his head forward, not facing the rest of us. He rubs the bottom of his palm against one of his eyes. I feel as though my body is moving of itself. If a wall were to appear in my path, I don't know if I'd have enough sense of mind to avoid it.
I'll take care of it.
And then I'll pull you to the side. Just keep it together a little longer. We're almost there. Thank you, and I apologize. It has been quite some time since I've exerted myself so much. You've really exerted this much before? Indeed. When I was training. Training for what? Before I was an adult, my family always had me working on a variety of skills, and during my little spare time, I practiced using my riser abilities. I was so fearful of it acting without my control that I worked strenuously to master it. Many nights I stayed up long past dark practicing. Key rubs the back of their head. That's rough.
However,
It was, but it was also certainly worth the effort. Yeah. Key still looks somewhat uncomfortable. You know, talking about younger you doing things down here reminds me of something. Oh, please tell us. It makes me think about how I used to come to the surface when I was younger. You did? Yes, when I was a little girl, my parents would occasionally take my sister and I on camping trips. Why would anyone want to camp out in this dirt pile willingly? Piper laughs, obviously remembering the trips. It was a little ridiculous, but we didn't ever have a bad time. We probably made it more difficult for ourselves than we had to. One time my sister and I even poured out some of our water so we could build tiny sand sculptures. What an amusing thought. You must have been a handful when you were younger.
You're not wrong.
Conversations come and go like the uncomfortable wind as we push on through the rest of the night and into the rising sun. We spend the rest of the night walking. The air is a little chilly, and the lack of scenery makes the whole place look the same. There's no way for me to know if we're really getting closer to our destination or not. And even though no one is in tip-top shape, we keep up a pleasant conversation the whole time. Finally, just as the sun is beginning to rise, we see a dark, oddly mossy-looking wall ahead of us. The sight of anything like civilization gives us added strength, and we all push forward to reach it. As we come up to the tall stone wall, January lays a hand on it, leaning against it for support.
This is it.
We all give a collective sigh of relief. Are you sure? This isn't some kind of mirage, is it? Key walks up and touches the structure for themselves just to be sure. Fantastic! Exactly how are we going to get in? Well, there is a usual protocol, but since we are in a hurry... He puts his other hand on the stone as well, and a portion of the wall begins to glow softly in a familiar way. The harsh sound of gears forcibly churning comes from inside, and soon the front gate slowly cranks open. Once it's done moving, January turns around and leans with his back to the wall, his arms falling limp. Please tell no one that the gate can be opened that way. Ha! Got it. Any Lee jeans? These ones are YKK. Or is that just the zipper company? Yeah, I don't know who these jeans are. Piper and I both nod as well. January pushes himself up and leads the rest of us through the gate.
Welcome to my home, dear friend.
Finally. Stepping through the gate, it's as if we've somehow returned to the land fraction. The ground is covered with a lush layer of grass, there are tall bushes, and a cobblestone walkway leads up to a huge building near the center of the walled area. How they managed all this in a desert is beyond me. Not one of us have nearly enough time to let the situation seep in before several people rush towards us. We're almost immediately surrounded by what I can only assume are January's employees, all of whom seem beside themselves to see him here. The servants hurry us over to the mansion front. We're ushered through the large double doors and down an immaculate hallway. The soft carpet is a welcome change. The servants all compete for a chance to speak, some asking questions, others saying that we should be given our space. January does not speak loud. In fact, his drowsiness makes him sound even quieter than usual, but the sound of his voice gets everyone's attention. Please prepare rooms for my companions to rest. With that, they get to work. Most scatter down the hall, and the few remaining lead us into another room. We're brought into a room that's only use looks to be sitting. Probably a sitting room. We're told that beds will be ready for us soon. The servants then leave us, stating that there will be guards posted outside who can help us with anything we need. January holds his hands, nods his thanks as the doors are closed. The four of us are alone again. For a moment we all look at each other without anyone knowing what to say. I'm far too tired to worry, so I simply sit on the nearest sofa to me. Here we are. The others laugh shakily and sit as well. We actually made it. My smile takes a lot of effort, but is worth it. Truthfully, I hope the rooms aren't ready too quickly. There's so much I want to say now that we actually made it. The sofa really is comfortable. I feel myself lean into it even more. My head rests back and I start to think about what I should say. My eyes open and I sit upright with a start. I fell asleep. How long has it been? I look around and find it's the same sitting room as before, so at least that hasn't changed. The others are all asleep as well, with January and Piper each on another couch, like mine, while Key is curled up on the plushiest armchair. On closer inspection, I can see Key has one eye open looking at me. My abrupt rousing could very well have been what snapped them out of their own rest. Key shifts into a normal sitting position and rubs their eyes with the heels of their hands. When they're done, I wave at them in greeting. Key gives a little wave back, looking happy. And that makes me glad. As quietly as they can, Key lifts themselves out of their chair and heads for the door. Since I do not wish to stir anyone else, which is likely what they're worried about, I get up and follow Key. When I reach the hallway, I tell the guards to come get us when January and Piper wake up. Key and I meet up a short way down the hall, and they greet me with a nod. The guards will come get us when those slackers decide to wake up. Good idea. Key looks at me like they want to say something, but don't know what. Fortunately, I have something I want to say to them. I'm sorry I used the radio without permission a few days ago. What? I never even heard about that. I know. I didn't tell you after it happened, and there wasn't a good chance to tell you later on.
Did the others know about this?
Yes. Piper saw me in the act, and when she was scolding me about it, January overheard.
Key groans and shakes their head.
Of course.
Of course, I was the only one left out of the loop.
But at this point, that doesn't matter. Why'd you do it?
It was before anyone else had risen that morning, and I wasn't thinking clearly. I wanted someone, anyone, to talk to.
Key gives me a sympathetic look.
This trip was really hard for you, huh?
You're right, but that's mostly because it's so different than what I'm used to. Before, I never had the option to talk to someone like that. Now, I feel compelled to talk to someone when I have a problem. It's all so strange.
I can imagine. Key looks away for a moment, then turns back to me. Thank you for telling me.
Of course. I do not intend to keep secrets from you.
Glad to hear it, even if I am finding about it long after everyone else. They make a show out of looking sour about that, and I laugh.
Sorry.
Don't worry.
It's no big deal. I can tell Key is smiling now too, and the two of us chat for a little while about all that's happened. Soon an employee approaches us and tells us that the others are awake and that a meal is ready. That's some of the best news I've heard in a while. Key and I thank her and we head back to the sitting room. January and Piper greet us as we come back in, and soon we are all settled around a small table that's laden with food. There are plates piled high with steaming meals and vegetables, all prepared in ways I've never seen before. We're all so hungry that we eat without a word being said, and just like that, the meal is gone. January thanks the staff as they clear the plates away.
So,
I hope that meal was acceptable to you three. I have to assume he is asking out of courtesy's sake. He couldn't actually believe it wasn't.
It's far better than the food, if you can call it that, we've had so far. Though, if you're still curious, it is not very similar to the food served back in the sanctuary. I am sorry. There could be other normal recipes that resemble sanctuary ones.
January shakes his head with a smile.
Don't trouble yourself over it. It does not matter whether the culinary tastes are similar in normal and abnormal societies. I'm surprised you remembered that I cared. Of course. I could understand your desire to find some common ground between the two places.
Hey, little Craig.
thank you.
But either way, people are people, and that won't change.
True. January then clears his throat to get our attention. He looks decidedly less cheery than he did a moment ago.
We shall have a meal prepared for the road for you all, so please tell me if you have something you would prefer. I'm sure it will take a while to be finished, however.
It's already getting late.
Oh, are you sure you cannot wait for us to prepare something?
I don't mean we gotta leave right now. After a trip like that, half a day isn't really enough to recoup. I think it'd be better for us to set out tomorrow, if you don't mind putting us up one more day, that is.
Truly?
Of course not. I'd be happy to accommodate you.
Thanks, that helps. I perk up at the decision, and I can see Piper's look of silent agreement. I'm not ready to leave yet. His voice says, I'm trying.
Very good. I shall ensure proper beds are made ready for your repose this evening.
I wouldn't be opposed to sleeping here on this couch again. It wasn't uncomfortable, and I wouldn't want you to go through the trouble. Same for me. I doubt I'd even like sleeping in one of the rooms this over-the-top place has. No offense. Besides, someone will have to keep Piper company in here. Piper cocks her head at Key.
How thoughtful of you.
We did have a nice time sleeping outside together every night.
Yes, but it was just the two of you out there at the start of this trip. I'm sure by this point the company of only each other would seem a little lonely. I will stay in this room and keep you both company.
January chuckles.
Very well. If you all wish to remain long together in this room, far be it from me to stop you.
And what about you? His cheeks darken with embarrassment.
If it is acceptable, I'd like to stay with you as well.
Obviously.
It wouldn't be much of a sleepover without you.
Indeed. Are you familiar with sleepovers, Jamie?
I haven't heard of them before, but I think the name makes the meaning rather transparent. January laughs again.
Quite so.
Key rises from their seat.
Now,
In that case, I best report back to Nier. I'm sure the captain has gone half crazy wondering what's happened to us. I'm not going to tell him exactly where we are, though. That's something that can be dealt with later. January stands up as well.
Thank you for your discretion.
For a moment he seems sad. Then he smiles warmly.
In that case,
I'll guide you to where the radios are kept. There are several communications I need to send to family members now that I've arrived safely.
Is this one of those freaky games you like? A visual novel? Yes. Key nods and waves at Piper and me as they follow January out the room. As they're exiting, January briefly turns back towards us.
I shall return as soon as possible. Inform one of the guards if you need anything.
Piper waves them off.
Don't worry about it.
We're in no hurry. Are you familiar with sleepovers? I am. Good luck. January thanks us and closes the door. I stretch out on the couch to get comfortable, and I see Piper do the same on her couch. I almost feel bad for those two. Not having anything to do is such a joy right now. Before I really notice, the sun has started to set, though it is difficult to tell in this room with its thick curtains. I glance at Piper. We stare at each other for a few moments, then Piper speaks. It's safe for work, yes. Is there anything you'd like to say to me? Yes, there is.
All right, then.
Go ahead, then. I think you would be a very good historian. Immediately, Piper snickers, then laughs outright. Thank you, but what makes you bring it up? I appreciated the way you talked with me that night, and I'm sorry I never had the chance to say anything about it until now. It's not a problem. We had other more important things to focus on at the time. Much more important. It isn't meaningless either. You seem well suited to being a historian, with how many things you're able to remember, and I feel sure you could keep students on track and interested. Thank you again. Actually, I always saw myself doing more historical research than teaching.
Maybe I'll have to reconsider. Give such a glowing recommendation.
She smiles warmly at me. I really mean that. It's nice hearing you remembered that conversation. Of course. I may not have a memory as good as yours, but I can remember the important parts. Piper's smile turns mischievous. So, the history of this world isn't important? I give a sarcastic shrug. No, not really. Fair enough. I stretch my arms before sitting up properly. I think I'll have a look around. Piper looks at me and seems to understand I want a bit of time to myself.
Sure.
Take your time. I'll be here. As I walk through the halls, many of the servants pause to greet me. None of them ask me to stop or inquire where I'm going, which I'm glad for. It's somehow strange to think that this is real. Part of me feels like I haven't really left the sanctuary, and any minute now I'll wake up in my old bed. Now that this trip is over, it feels more like a dream than ever. With a heavy sigh, I keep walking. Eventually, I find my way to a balcony on the second floor that overlooks the desert all around the mansion. It makes it seem like this house is the only thing in the whole world. I hear footsteps behind me, and a voice I know well greets me.
hello.
I turn to January and notice that he has a new monocle. It's good you were able to replace it.
Ah, yes, thank you.
He's complete again. He's got a monocle. Like Mr. Peanut. How did your calls go?
Very well. My family members were overjoyed and highly impressed with the way I managed to return here safely, despite the odds. Several expressed a desire to make visits to the surface of my steed on future occasions, as a precaution.
That is nice. These graphics look CPU intensive. Yep, it's really straining my computer here.
It is. However, and I intentionally withheld the fact that 3 new people have knowledge of my true nature. It seemed prudent to avoid such a dramatic subject, considering how stressful this affair has already been.
I see. What will you do about that? January's expression grows peaceful.
I believe it will work out.
I believe in our friends. The only recourse I can reasonably see is to obtain some type of waiver that will legally allow me to remain in normal society despite being abnormal. If couched in the most reasonable of terms, I'm sure an arrangement could be made. Does such a thing exist?
I've never heard of anyone who has one. But even with a legal exception, I imagine wouldn't go around shedding their abnormalness to the masses. On the other hand, there are a few abnormals who slip through the system, so I could very well be the first to ask for such a thing. We'll see, I suppose.
I think that sounds like a decent idea. You are an important person. I can imagine the leaders of this region bending the rules for your sake.
Yes, I feel the same. At least now that I've seen my future, I do.
Why didn't you explain any of this to me or the rest of us before now?
Sometimes it was because I felt there were more pressing issues to focus on, and sometimes I myself forgot that it was still an issue, and sometimes I was too afraid.
Hey, good night, Killface.
I thought if I spoke of the plan, someone might try to fight against me getting that approval.
By someone, you mean Key, don't you?
That is correct. I know they are a good person, but I was not sure if they would approve of the idea, considering it is unfair to other abnormals to let only me live where I choose.
If you told Key now, I don't believe they would blame you, and I think they would see your side.
I agree. Will you try to gain an exception as well, Jamie?
That wouldn't be the first time I've put in an effort petitioning leaders to bend rules.
Indeed. Oh yes, I almost forgot the reason I interrupted you in the first place. Dinner has been prepared, and I was wondering if you wish to eat. If not, there is no hurry.
Thanks. I would like to join in.
Very good.
Shall we? Yes. Lead the way. I mean that. I will likely get lost in those endless halls otherwise. We laugh as we begin our way back. We're greeted by Piper and Key as we come in. I'm also greeted by the delicious aroma of a meal that, if possible, is even grander than the first one. I find a spot by the table and start digging in right away. You hate this game? I know, Buttercup, I know. Hey, I just want to say, I'd love to take any of you out to dinner at a restaurant sometime.
You are too kind.
That is so kind of you, Piper.
Why?
Why would you want to do that? Seems like it'd be hard to pull off. Well, I just thought someone ought to take Jamie out to one, all things considered. But it'd be a touch rude if I only offered it to her. You two are perfectly free to decline if you want. I appreciate the sentiment. However, it is probably best to forget about that. Maybe I'll take you all out instead.
No, that won't do. I am the one indebted to each of you for accompanying me through this ordeal. If anyone ought to purchase a meal for our little company, it should be me.
You've already fed us, more than once. It's happening currently. You don't need to take us out, too.
Well,
Speak for yourself, Key. He makes a solid argument. Besides, he is the one with the most money. We could rent out an entire place if eating in public would be too much for you, Jamie. I feel it's the least he could do. That's true and fair. I will have to accept since it is important to you. Piper and January look enthused. However, Key seems uncomfortable with the conversation. No, let the rich person pay for dinner. You know what? That's a fair point. Rich dude, you pay for dinner. Hurrah! I get to pay for dinner. Win for the rich dude. I can't take gifts for doing my job. Even if you stop framing it as a gift now, it still wouldn't be right. We all look at Key and they clearly feel the weight of ruining the mood. They sigh, throwing their hands into the air.
So,
I guess that means I'll have to be the one to take everyone out. How generous. Yes, thank you, Key. I still expect you to rent out the entire building.
Splendid.
Certainly. I know of a few places that would be accommodating.
Sheesh, you guys spoiled real quick. We have a wonderful meal whilst enjoying wonderful company. Whilst! Am I glad there's nothing else to do today.
Agreed. Lack of responsibility is sometimes the greatest of boons.
Technically, we still have to get ready for bed.
oh,
What if I don't do that? I could stretch out on this couch right here and not move again for the rest of the day. I would not advise that. When's the last time you had access to a proper bathroom? Key sighs childishly. Alright, fine, I'll do something else. Leave it to you guys to ruin my perfect plan. I laugh good-humoredly. Good. In fact, I think I'm going to start getting ready now. I'd hate to fall asleep by accident again.
true.
It's not a bad idea to get it done before we get even sleepier.
With a nod, I get up and exit the sitting place in search of a restroom. It takes me much longer to get back than I had imagined. I was trying to wash the blood off my cloak and only had moderate success. Finally, though, I make my way back to our new camp. For some reason, everyone is sitting around with most of their clothes gone. They give me various greetings and seem amused by my obvious confusion. Wow! Woo! Sexy times! Why did this happen? Didn't I tell you all I was going to stop wearing that dress as soon as possible? January offered to let us clean off our clothes in a washer if we wanted to. It's kinda cold without them, but they were in bad enough shape that I didn't want to be wearing them. I offered to provide them an alternate attire. However, the available options failed to serve adequately.
It's fine.
No one had clothes for someone like me. I'll be fine this way for one night. The things they found for me were not small enough, and what I have on now aren't that bad as pajamas. It shouldn't be an issue, I'd say. I see. Then what's January's problem? Key shrugs. He wanted to show off that he's in better shape than we all expected. They made me feel obligated to join, and I couldn't much refuse, since our lack of preparedness is why both of them were inconvenienced. I didn't recall making you do anything you didn't want to do. Well, that's fine for you all, but I have to say that none of you are worth taking my cloak off for.
True.
Fair. The others laugh with me, and nod their understanding. As the initial surprise at their sudden wardrobe change wears off, I notice something interesting. You all have scars.
Perhaps.
Yes, it seems so. That is rather interesting. I focus on one of Key's arms in particular, where there's a small, rounded, splotchy scar. Where did you get that? I point in their direction. Key looks at their arm briefly, then looks away with a sigh. I got shot. Ah, I had a feeling because of the shape.
Don't worry.
Don't worry about me. It was small. Some random guy made it himself in his house. Building illegal weapons is why he was being arrested, if you were curious. I'm glad you're all right. Thanks.
How dreadful.
I cannot stand firearms. My eyes are drawn to my own arm, and of course, where my hand used to be. It was easier not to think about that today. Are you doing okay, Jamie? But, as much as I don't like being faced with that fact, it is nice to realize that I've been adjusting better and better as time goes on. Back for a second time. Hi, Killface. Yes, letting myself feel alright with the way I am, regardless of how it's changed, is the only option I want to accept. I will be able to manage, no matter what.
That's good.
And if you ever need any help, don't hesitate to ask. Key and January likewise offer their full support, as I knew they always would. It is great knowing they're willing to be there for me, but I have to assume that that's not terribly possible. The melancholy feeling that has crept in now and then makes it clear they still remember that, as of now, I have no right to be here in this society. At least January has the excuse that he has an established life here and normal society is all he knows. The obvious conclusion of what must be done with me cannot be avoided forever. I can make my own peace with that fact, for the most part. My one regret is that my situation may damage the group, if not tear it apart entirely. Even if it's not a guarantee, I want to believe we can keep things together. Well, good. If you ask me, we really should do some kind of reunion or celebration to commemorate the completion of this journey. I think it's important enough for an event like that. We could have it in, say, a few years in the future.
Splendid.
That's a wonderful idea. I would love to host such an event here at my house. We would have all the accommodations one could require, and that would ensure a proper feast is prepared.
Well,
If we did have it here, you'd have to let me know pretty well in advance. A few years down the way will certainly be a busy time. I need to be able to find a substitute for my teaching position and be able to make travel arrangements from the region of Nazca. She winks and I feel my smile growing. Wonder how seriously she envisions that as her future. Of course, I'll be sure to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be a similar case for me, since my town Twilight Lift ain't that close either. Still, I bet I could make it work, with enough notice. Wouldn't have to be keeping up some undercover act then, at least. Good to hear.
I wouldn't want either of you to miss it. Indeed. If here is too far, perhaps we could use my summer home on the land fraction. Which, you see, I will likely have by then. He adds that last part hastily, and we all have a good chuckle.
What do you think?
What about you, Jamie? Where will you be coming from? I'll be coming from Nazca, too. Piper eyes me with a mirthful grin.
Certainly.
Of course. Yeah, you didn't even have to ask.
Have any plans in mind?
If there is one thing I know of Nazca, it is that it's a large fraction with a lot of open space. That is something they don't really have in the sanctuary because of how limited the area is. I would like to explore all of that.
Interesting.
How interesting. I hope you enjoy it then. Just one word of advice, you might want to get a second outfit you don't care for. Traveling could very well ruin what you've got on. I chuckle at the comment. I'll keep that in mind. And, regardless of all that, it seems we are in agreement that a reunion will be had at some point. Looks like it.
Agreed.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it already. Seeing them all so excited makes me think back on all we've experienced together, the good and the bad. My recollections focus in on one person, the person who, perhaps more than anything else, had the biggest influence on how this whole thing ended. Trinette. I'm gonna go looking for it and I'm gonna fucking marry Trinette. I'm still unsure of exactly how I should think of her, but I know I won't let her haunt me. If we do meet again, I will be prepared to face her. For now, she did give me a suggestion I could at least consider. By that time, I might also have a hand to replace this one. Piper gives me a curious look. It would help, I imagine.
I see.
Do you mean mechanical? If you truly want one, I could help pay for it. Thank you. I'll be fine without. It's mostly just a thought. Yeah, so, speaking of the future, there is something Jamie and I were discussing earlier. What was it? What was it? Jamie, do you mind? Not if you don't. Continue. He stands up tall and addresses the other two with a distinct seriousness. You see, we want to live outside of abnormal society, but we do not want to ignore the concerns others have with that idea. It is our intention to work towards obtaining waivers that grant us legal right to remain in normal society despite our abnormality. Huh? If we explain our situations to the government and promise not to use our powers unfairly, we're hoping they'll be willing to make exceptions. That sounds reasonable. Don't you think, Key? Key nods slowly, letting the new concept sink in. They likely didn't even notice Piper speaking to them. Yes, I think it is a good solution. Admittedly, it will be sad to not have contact with those I knew in the sanctuary, which I assume will be required. I understand the reason for it, but it is something I will miss. Key furrows their brows, and they seem to come back to their full senses. That's not exactly a good mentality for the sanctuary, is it? What do you mean? Aren't you supposed to be pretty detached in that place? I mean, could you even call those people back there friends? I think long and hard about that. I look at January, Piper, and Key, and realize there's no comparison. You're right. They aren't friends in the same way. Still, they were a significant part of my life, and losing touch entirely will still be difficult for me. That's my point. In the sanctuary, at least if what I've been told is right, even the idea of friends isn't something they want to encourage. You're all supposed to be off by yourselves. You even wear masks so you can't see people's faces and get emotionally attached. I know. Why are you stuck on that point?
So,
It's just, I feel like I've missed something so obvious this entire time. All I've cared about is maintaining peace in normal society, but that's not fair. Abnormal society has its own version of peace it's trying to maintain. I'm obviously not the best person to make this call, but maybe people like you and January really are better off outside of that system. It looks like we're finally all on the same page. Wonderful. Does this mean you would accept the idea of waivers, Key? I mean, all this should never have happened in the first place, especially with you, January. What's done is done, I guess. I'm not gonna try to stop you if that's what you're worried about.
Thank you.
The fact that we sat through this game for you deserves a present. Thank you, Key. I wasn't worried. Key grumbles. What makes my opinion on this important anyway? I'm wrong about everything, apparently. Oh, Key. Oh, Key. Simply put, I have never met someone as implacable as you.
Key's eyes widen in shock, and Piper and I burst out laughing. Key gives each of us an irritated look while somehow still looking happy. Alright. You just haven't spent enough time in the police force. I'm sure you'll find someone harder to convince than me.
I don't doubt that. I feel we were very lucky to have such an open-minded officer on our team. Agreed.
You're too much.
Now that's going too far the other way. You don't gotta baby me.
You're kind of proving his point, you know. Learn to take a compliment.
They chuckle, seemingly aware of what they have been doing. The rest of us catch on with that and laugh as well.
Okay.
Okay, people, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but taking this day off won't do us any good if we don't actually get some rest. I think it's time to call it a night. I see January looks as disappointed about that idea as me. Yeah, that's just what I was going to say. We all laugh again, and Piper reaches over and turns the light off, leaving no chance to put it off further. After that, we each get situated on our couches and chair for Key. Good night, everyone.
Night.
Rest well, my friends. Until tomorrow.
And with that, the room goes quiet. Unfortunately, turning off the lights was only effective in getting us to end our discussion. It has not helped me feel any more ready to sleep. I see Piper's knowing smile, and I get the impression she can tell my eyes are open behind this mask. And I'm certainly not ready to do that, especially not when she's up too. I quietly get out of bed and tiptoe over to where Piper is. She props herself up when I sit down near her. She pretty.
How are you?
Something the matter? Do we have to go to sleep right now?
Piper laughs softly. I figured this would happen. Since that's not a real answer, I simply wait in silence. Alright, we can talk some if you'd like, but let the others sleep.
Of course.
I take a moment to get more comfortable while Piper watches me with an amused expression. When I'm settled, I look directly at her.
So, how are you doing?
Good. Thanks for asking. And you?
Good. I'm also doing well. I nod.
Having access to food, clean water, and a comfortable place to sleep goes a long way to helping your mood. Though, I guess you're used to sleeping outdoors.
I am. But that doesn't mean I'm against sleeping in a real bed whenever I can. Or on a couch in this case.
Do you think it will be a while before you go on another trip?
Not necessarily. I was supposed to get back to work soon, but after what's happened on this trip, I may decide to extend my vacation. It's me in bed with you.
I would. I think anyone deserves a break after what we've been through.
I can't disagree. You really ought to consider taking some time off yourself. For a moment, her expression becomes sad. I'm sorry that the harshest parts of the trip were put on others.
You don't have to apologize for that. We each did what we could to take care of ourselves and each other. And if worse things had happened to you instead, it certainly wouldn't have made me feel any better about this trip.
Thanks. I do my best to sound cheerful to brighten the mood again.
It is nothing. Honestly, we made it out rather well considering how many obstacles we had to manage.
Piper's smile seems to brighten.
You're not wrong.
You've got a point. Piper turns away like she's thinking of something. It was pretty lucky of me to run into all of you that day. Not only would I never have met January or Key, but it would have taken much, much longer for the two of us to become as close as we are now. Having no choice but to spend so much time around each other really did the trick. I laugh softly.
I certainly see how that could be. Not to mention that I likely would have come across as a true stalker if I had been following you around during your regular day-to-day life.
To others, definitely. Probably not so much to me. I recognized you as an abnormal right away, so if you'd explained the situation, I would have written you off as socially awkward, but harmless.
Regardless.
The real issue is that you would have been much easier to avoid, and you probably would have been arrested by some other police officer long before you got close to me. But I digress.
Yes, it's strange to think that with only a little change, we would have totally missed the opportunity to get close to each other and feel the way we do now.
Don't sweat that too much. I'm sure you would have gotten me on your side eventually. Once I learned more about you, I liked you, and that wouldn't change even if the circumstances around us were different.
That is very nice of you to say. You're not normally this forthcoming.
Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't get used to it either. This is a special occasion.
I can't help chuckling. That's more what I was expecting. I hope you don't mind. Of course not. I don't mind that part of who you are. You should know that by now. You're right. In that case, I won't check again. That's fine. I expect you to know how I am by now, too.
True.
Of course. Good. I'm glad we were able to come to an understanding like this. Piper grins. I agree. My eyes hang shut for longer and longer each time I blink, and I know that it's time. We should go to sleep now. Agreed. I'm impressed that you're the one to suggest it. I wave off the idea. We can't stay up all night.
Sleep well.
I can manage that. You concluded your story with that charming adventurer. Very good. I'll see you tomorrow then, Jamie. Good night, Piper. I creep back to the couch and lie down. I then take a moment to cover myself with the blanket January let me borrow. Feeling content, I close my eyes at last. Strikes me that despite all the time we had to chat today, we didn't talk about what we were going to do tomorrow, or in any of the upcoming days. I get the impression that wasn't an accident. I certainly didn't want to talk about it, and it seems no one else did either. But that's okay. Even if we don't have a plan right now, we'll find a way to make it work. We've become quite good at that over the last few days. That is enough reassurance for me. The present. Thank you for playing. I don't need to know exactly what is going to happen. I don't need to see specifically how things will improve. I'm happy. Yay! We did fucking finish it. Took an extra hour and 20 minutes. I'll admit there are parts that felt like they dragged a little bit. Just, frankly, a bit of an issue with a lot of visual novels. There's parts that just feel like they drag a little bit too long. Hey, I do enjoy it. I did enjoy the game, though. I do enjoy the game. And there's the credits. Thank you for playing. You're welcome. Can I get a wrench for sitting here for 3.5 hours? To even get married to the woman? Nope! Yeah. Sorry, I forgot the... We'll skip the bonus event. We won't watch the bonus event. Yeah, it is funny that, like, at the end of it, yeah, the whole thing, we started because we were like, oh, I'm going to marry this lady. And then at the end of it, it's kind of vague whether we'll actually get married. But we are close. We do like each other, at least. Alright. Next. I haven't decided what the next game should be. Next game we play should be funny.
Yeah, I'll probably look for something. I'll probably try to figure out a funnier game. For now, I think I am going to leave for now. I think I'm going to call it a night for now. Because it's 12:30. I gotta make myself some supper. So, yeah, so thanks for watching. Thanks for joining me on this journey. And I'll see you all tomorrow. Not tonight, Buttercup, not tonight. I don't think I can because I'm using Streamlabs. Like I'm streaming through, like I'm not streaming directly on YouTube. I'm using a separate application for it. So I don't think I can stream mod you right now. So